The sky fell down. A world rebuilt. Have you ever felt like everything you knew, everything familiar, suddenly shattered? Like the ground beneath you gave way, or the sky itself seemed to collapse? It's a powerful, unsettling feeling, isn't it? Many ancient myths tell stories just like this, not about a small problem, but about the world ending, only to be made new again. Think of it, not just a house burning, but the whole world burning, or being swallowed by a flood. These aren't just scary tales. For people long ago, these myths helped explain big natural disasters, like huge earthquakes or eruptions that changed the land. They also showed a deeper truth, that sometimes, to build something new, the old must first break apart. It's a way of understanding scary changes, finding hope in destruction. An ending often holds the seeds of a new beginning. Here's how it works in our own lives. Imagine you're learning a tricky subject, like algebra or coding. At first, it might feel like your understanding is falling apart. Everything seems confusing. You might struggle and wish you could just go back to what you knew. But then, something clicks. You start to see patterns, connect ideas. The old way of thinking breaks down, and a new understanding begins to form. You've rebuilt your knowledge, and it's stronger, more complete than before. So, these old myths about skies falling and worlds rebuilding aren't just stories from long ago. They whisper about our own lives, about how we face big changes. They remind us that even when things feel like they're crashing down, there's always a chance to pick up the pieces, learn from them, and build something brave and beautiful again. It's a quiet message of resilience, a soft assurance that change, even hard change, can lead to growth. Whispers of the first dawn. Have you ever heard a story or a song and felt like you already knew it, deep down? Not because you'd heard it before, but because something about it just felt right, like an echo from an old dream. That quiet feeling, that gentle hum, is what we call the whispers of the first dawn. These are the first stories humans told, when the world was new and mysterious. Early people wondered why the sun rose, searching for answers. They looked at the sky, the deep forests, the crashing waves. Their answers weren't science, but powerful stories woven from wonder and fear. And here's the thing, people living far apart, who never met, often told surprisingly similar stories. Why would separate groups all have tales about a great flood, or a hero's journey to the underworld? If everyone saw the same bright moon, they'd wonder about it in similar ways, even with different words. Our minds, our hearts, and the big questions we ask are often alike. No matter where we're from, it's like patterns that show up everywhere. The hero's journey, a character goes on a big adventure, faces challenges, and learns. You see this in movies and books today, right? But this idea is also in ancient myths from Greece, Egypt, and older cultures. The details change, but the core feeling of facing fears and growing stronger, that's a pattern inside all of us. So, when we hear these forgotten myths, they feel strangely familiar, like a half-remembered melody. These whispers connect us across time. They gently remind us that even thousands of years later, we share the same big questions and deep wonder about our world. It's a beautiful bond to everyone who ever lived. It shows our human story, with its mysteries and dreams, is older and more connected than we realize. When giants walked the earth, have you ever looked at a huge mountain or a vast ocean and felt tiny? It's a feeling that makes you wonder about things bigger than yourself. Long, long ago, people felt this too. They looked at the world, saw incredible power storms, earthquakes, towering cliffs, and they imagined beings just as immense. Not just big people, but forces of nature given a body. These were the giants in their stories, creatures so vast they could reshape the land with a single step or a mighty roar. Every culture, it seems, has these tales, from the Norse frost giants, whose bodies became parts of the world itself, to the Greek titans, ancient gods of immense power, who came before the familiar Olympians. It wasn't just about fear, it was about understanding. Here's the thing, how did the world get here? Who moved those giant rocks? What caused the sky to stretch so far? Giants were often the answer. They represented the unknowable, massive forces that shaped our world long before humans ever walked it. They were the original architects, the raw, untamed power of creation and destruction. Think about a time you tried to solve a really complicated problem, maybe a puzzle or a tough math question. It felt huge, right, like an unbeatable giant. But slowly, you started to see parts of it. You found a way to break it down. Our ancestors did something similar with the world around them. They took the massive, overwhelming mysteries, the formation of the earth, the violence of storms, and gave them a name, a shape. They made them into giants so they could talk about them, share stories, and try to make sense of what seemed too big to understand. So these myths about giants remind us that even when things feel too big, too powerful, or too mysterious to grasp, humans have always found a way to tell their story. We give form to the formless, and in doing so, we make the world feel a little less lonely, a little more understandable, even if it's through the echoes of footsteps that never truly felt. The boy who befriended a star. Have you ever looked up at the night sky, at all those tiny distant lights, and felt a quiet wish? Maybe you felt a little lonely, or just wondered about everything out there. There's an old story, almost a whisper from time, about a boy who felt something similar. He befriended a star. This isn't a story you'll find in history books. Instead, it's more like a feeling, a thought that echoes across cultures, across ages. Long ago, people saw stars not just as burning gas balls, but as living beings, watchful eyes, or even distant souls. They imagined these lights could understand us, perhaps even answer. So, the idea of a human boy and a star becoming friends wasn't just fantasy. It was a way to talk about deep longing, a human need to connect with something vast and pure. Think about it like this. Sometimes when you're feeling a bit lost, or nobody seems to understand you, you might find comfort in something unexpected. Maybe it's a song that just gets you, or a quiet spot in a library that feels safe. It's not a person, but it gives you something you need. That's a bit like the boy and the star. The star wasn't a friend in the usual way, talking and playing, but it was a steady, silent presence, a light in the dark that seemed to listen without judgment. It offered a kind of understanding that felt uniquely theirs. Here's the thing. This old story reminds us that friendship doesn't always look the way we expect. It teaches us about finding connection in the quietest, biggest places. It's about how even the furthest light can feel incredibly close if we let our hearts reach for it. It tells us that even when we feel tiny in a huge universe, there's always a possibility for profound connection, a kind of friendship that simply is. It's a quiet truth about our place in the cosmos and the silent bonds we can form. A bridge to the other side. Have you ever wondered what lies just beyond what we can see, or feel, or even fully understand? It's a quiet question many of us carry. Many ancient stories, the ones that feel strangely familiar, talk about places like this. They imagine a bridge to the other side. It's not always a solid bridge you can walk on, but more like a doorway, a pathway, or even just a feeling of stepping into something new. This idea is about moments or spaces where one world seems to touch another. It's about transition. Think about how people have always wondered what happens after life ends, or where our minds go when we dream deeply. For thousands of years, humans have used myths to try and make sense of these big unknowns. These bridges, in their stories, were how they imagined journeys to unseen realms, places of spirits, of pure thought, or of deep magic. Here's the thing, you can feel this kind of bridge in your own life. Remember that moment just before you fall asleep. Your mind is still awake, but you're starting to drift. Images might float by, sounds blur. You're not fully in the waking world, but you're not fully in a dream either. It's a space in between, a kind of personal bridge to the world of sleep and dreams. Or think about standing at the edge of a great forest, where the familiar path gives way to deeper, shadowed trees. It's a crossing into something different. So, these myths, with their bridges to other sides, show us something important about being human. We are always moving, always changing, and sometimes the most important parts of life happen in those in-between spaces, right on the edge of the known. It reminds us that even when things feel unclear, there's a gentle pull towards what's next, a quiet crossing to a new understanding or experience. It's a thought that can make us feel both a little uncertain and wonderfully hopeful. The island that vanished in mist. Have you ever wondered about something that seemed so real, so clear, but then, when you tried to find it again, it was just gone, like a perfect dream that fades the moment you wake up? Or some of the oldest myths tell stories about entire islands that did just that. They vanished, not sunk by a giant wave, but simply slipped away, swallowed by the mist or the deep ocean. This idea of a phantom island shows up in ancient tales from all over the world. Sailors would report seeing a new land on the horizon, sail towards it, and find nothing but open water. Mapmakers even drew these places on their maps, like Bus Island or St. Brendan's Island, convinced they were real. For centuries, people believed they were out there, somewhere, just waiting to be found. But the more people looked, the less they found. Here's the thing, it's not about magic, not exactly. It's about how much we want to believe in something new, something unknown, just beyond our reach. Don't think about that feeling when you're sure you left your keys in one spot. You picture them there clearly, but when you go back, they're gone. And no matter how hard you search, you can't find them anywhere. Or maybe you remember a specific moment from your childhood so vividly, but when you ask someone else about it, they don't recall it the same way, or at all. It makes you wonder if your memory itself is like a vanishing island, holding something real that only you can see, but others can't quite grasp. So why do we hold on to these stories of places that disappear? Maybe it's because deep down, we understand that everything changes. Things are there, and then they aren't. It reminds us that some mysteries are meant to stay that way, mysterious, like a whisper on the wind, or a faint shadow in the fog. These vanishing islands teach us to appreciate the present, and to quietly wonder about all the beautiful things that might exist just beyond what we can truly see or touch. They remind us that even what is lost can still have a quiet power over our imaginations. Hearts made of clay and sunlight. Have you ever looked at the ground beneath your feet, or felt the sun warm on your skin, and wondered what we are truly made of? For thousands of years, people across the world shared a deep, familiar myth that humans were crafted from the very earth itself. Think of it like a potter shaping clay. In many ancient stories, our bodies were formed from mud, dust, or simple soil. Then, something else, a breath, a spark, or a ray of light, gave that clay a soul, a mind, a heartbeat. This wasn't just a fanciful tale for them. It was how they understood their place in the vast, living world. They saw that plants grew from the earth, and animals depended on those plants. It made perfect sense that humans, too, were woven into this natural fabric. Our bodies, they believed, were literally of the earth, destined to return to it. And if you think about it, there's a quiet truth to this. Your physical body is made of elements found right here on Earth. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen. Your bones have calcium, like the rocks. Your blood carries iron, just like the soil. So, in a very real way, we are clay, shaped by the planet. But then there's your spirit, your consciousness, your unique way of seeing the world. That spark, that wonder, that deep feeling, where does that come from? It's like the sunlight, giving life and warmth, something you can't quite hold but illuminates everything. It's what makes the clay alive, able to dream and feel and connect. So, when we speak of hearts made of clay and sunlight, it's a beautiful, ancient way to see ourselves. We are grounded, deeply connected to the planet beneath us, part of its very substance, and at the same time, we carry this intangible light, this quiet energy that lets us think, feel, and wonder. It's a gentle reminder that we are both wonderfully part of this world, and something more, something reaching for the vastness of the sky. It helps us feel a quiet sense of belonging, a deep understanding of our place in the universe's grand, ongoing story. The river that remembered everything. Have you ever walked through an old forest, or by a winding river, and felt like the place had secrets, like it held echoes of things that happened long, long ago? What if that feeling wasn't just imagination? Some very old ideas, from cultures around the world, suggest that certain places, especially powerful ones, like great rivers, actually remember everything. Not like a human brain remembers, but in a deeper, more mysterious way. It's like the land itself is a vast, silent library, where every rain shower, every whispered secret, every moment of joy or sadness, leaves a faint imprint. The river then becomes a living story, flowing through time, carrying all those memories within its current. Many ancient people truly believed this. They saw rivers not just as water, but as wise, ancient beings. They felt that the river witnessed everything on its banks, every conversation, every journey, every passing animal or person, and because it flowed continuously, it was like a living record, a memory that never stopped moving. Here's an analogy. Think about a very old tree. If you cut it down, you can see its rings. Each ring tells you about a year, if it was wet, if it was dry, if there was a fire. The tree remembers its past within its very structure. A river is similar, but instead of rings, it holds the invisible imprints of time. Not in its body, but in its essence, in the way it feels to us. Just like how a certain smell can instantly bring back a forgotten memory from your own life. The river holds the scent of moments from history. So if a river truly remembers everything, then our own lives, our small moments and big dreams, also become a part of this endless, flowing memory. It means that nothing truly vanishes. Everything leaves a mark, a whisper in the current, adding to the world's vast, unspoken story. And that thought can make us feel connected, like we belong to something much bigger and older than ourselves. Sleeping heroes, waiting to wake. Have you ever heard the old tales? Stories where great heroes don't really die, but just go to sleep. It's a strange and beautiful idea found in myths all over the world. These heroes, often kings or powerful warriors, are not gone forever. Instead, they are said to be resting in hidden places, maybe deep inside a mountain or on a secret, misty island. They lie there, eyes closed, sometimes with their loyal knights or armies around them, simply waiting. The concept is simple. They are in a deep slumber, ready to awaken when their land or people face great danger. It's like a promise whispered through time. For people long ago, this belief brought a lot of comfort and hope. When everything felt dark and impossible, they could hold on to the idea that their legendary protectors weren't lost forever. This meant strength and goodness were never truly gone, just hidden for a while, ready for the moment of greatest need. Think of the legend of King Arthur, who supposedly sleeps on the mystical island of Avalon, waiting for Britain to call him. And here's the thing, this isn't just about ancient myths. This idea of something powerful lying dormant might remind you of things in your own life. Imagine you learned to play an instrument a while ago, or master a tricky skill on a skateboard. You might not use it every day. It feels like it's sleeping inside you, but it's not gone. When the right moment comes, or you simply decide to pick it up again, that skill can wake up, almost as if it never left. It's there, waiting for you to call on it. So, these myths make us think about hidden potential. They whisper a gentle truth, that even in quiet times, great things might be just waiting to awaken. Maybe it's a hero in a legend, or maybe, just maybe, it's about the courage and kindness that waits inside each of us, ready to shine when the world needs it most. It's a calm thought, that good things, true things, are always present, sometimes just taking a long, deep rest. The Serpent's secret promise. Have you ever felt a story, even an old one, whispers something you already know deep down, like a memory just out of reach? This is especially true for the Serpent. For many, it's a symbol of danger or secrets, but in countless forgotten myths, the Serpent holds a different promise. It's not about evil at all. Think about it. A snake sheds its skin. It goes through something tough, something that must feel strange and vulnerable. But when it's done, it's new, it's renewed. This idea of shedding, of letting go of the old to become new, is the Serpent's ancient secret. Many cultures, from ancient Egypt to Native American traditions, saw the snake as a sign of healing, wisdom, and eternal life. It was a creature connected to the earth's deep mysteries, holding knowledge about cycles and change. Here's the thing, we all have moments like this shedding. Maybe it's when you have to try something new, like moving to a new school, or learning a really hard math concept. At first, it feels uncomfortable, maybe even a little scary, like you're leaving behind what's familiar. But if you push through, you often find yourself stronger, smarter, more capable than before. It's like when you're learning a new sport. You might stumble and fall at first. That's the uncomfortable shedding. But with practice, you grow, get better, and find a new strength you didn't know you had. So, the Serpent's promise isn't about being tricky or dangerous. It's about the brave, sometimes messy, journey of change. It reminds us that often, the path to becoming our best selves involves letting go of what once was, to embrace the new and unknown. It's a quiet whisper from the past, telling us that growth comes after transformation, even if it feels a little strange at first. Lost in the labyrinth of dreams. Have you ever woken up from a dream, and for a moment, you weren't sure where you were, or felt a deep sadness or joy from a dream that just didn't make sense? It's like our minds build these whole other worlds while we sleep, and sometimes, these dream worlds feel strangely familiar, like echoes of stories or feelings we can't quite place. For thousands of years, People across cultures have wondered about dreams. Ancient Egyptians believed dreams were messages from the gods. Greek thinkers like Aristotle saw them as our bodies reacting to the day. But other ancient Greeks felt dreams were sacred, a way to connect with wisdom. They even went to special dream temples, believing hidden truths could be found in that strange space between waking and sleeping. It shows how deeply humans tried to understand this part of themselves. Here's the thing about dreams: they often don't follow logic. You might be flying one moment, then suddenly in your classroom with everyone in animal masks. It's confusing, right? But even in that confusion, there can be a strong feeling or a theme that stays with you. Like when you dream about trying to run but your legs feel heavy. It's a common dream, and often it makes you feel frustrated or helpless. That shared feeling, across so many people, across time, suggests something deeper. Maybe our dreams touch on universal human experiences or fears, things that have been around forever, like trying to escape. So, when we wake from these strange journeys, maybe we're not just forgetting a random story. Maybe we're letting go of a glimpse into something ancient, something deeply human. Dreams are quiet reminders that our minds hold vast uncharted territories, full of forgotten feelings and old wisdom. And maybe, just maybe, they connect us to a past we don't consciously remember, but our souls never forgot. It's a humbling thought, isn't it, to think that even in our sleep we're still exploring the mystery of what it means to be human. The girl who spoke to trees. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to truly listen to the world around you? Not just to human voices, but to the quiet whispers of something ancient, something alive. This forgotten myth isn't about a girl who literally chatted with trees. It's about a deeper knowing, a way of understanding nature that goes beyond words. Long ago, many people believed everything had a spirit. Rivers, rocks, even the wind, especially trees. They weren't just wood. They were wise elders, silent witnesses to centuries of change. The girl who spoke to trees understood this quiet language. She sensed their resilience, their slow growth, how they shared nutrients through their roots, supporting each other in a vast network. And this isn't just a mystical idea. Science shows trees communicate chemically, sending warnings or sharing resources. Think about it this way: when you walk into a quiet forest, you might feel a sense of calm, a peace you don't find in a busy city. The trees aren't saying, "Hello, welcome," but their presence, their oxygen, the filtered light, the ancient quiet, it all communicates something profound to you, doesn't it? It's like listening to a piece of music without lyrics. You don't need words to feel the sadness or joy it holds. The myth of the girl who spoke to trees reminds us to slow down, to truly observe, to remember that the world is filled with silent stories, with wisdom not written in books, but held in the very fabric of life around us. Maybe it asks us to quiet our own minds just enough to hear what the world might be trying to tell us, without saying a single word. And perhaps that listening is a kind of speaking to how the moon got its spots. Have you ever really looked at the moon, high above, and noticed its face? Those shadowy patches, the bright parts, it looks like a picture, a story written in silver light. For a long time, people saw faces there, or rabbits, or even someone carrying sticks. They made up stories about its marks. But here's the thing: those dark areas aren't pictures. They are vast, flat plains formed by ancient volcanic eruptions. The brighter parts are mountains and craters from countless impacts over billions of years. It's not a drawing, but a map of deep time, of collisions and slow changes. Think about how ancient people, without telescopes, tried to understand. They saw shapes and wondered, how did those marks get there? They imagined a giant rabbit, a man with firewood, or a goddess. These weren't just silly tales. They were their way of making sense of the mystery, giving a soul to the distant orb. They filled the unknown with wonder. It's a bit like how a favorite old book gets dog-eared pages and smudges, or how your shoes get scuff marks from adventures. Each mark isn't a flaw. It's a record of where that book has been, or what you've done. The moon's spots are like that, not just random marks. They're echoes of a violent past, imprints of cosmic events that shaped its very being. So, when you look up at the moon tonight, remember those ancient stories, and then remember what science tells us. Both are true in their own way. The moon carries its history openly, its spots telling a silent, incredible tale of creation and survival. It reminds us that even scars can be beautiful, showing how something has endured. carrying its past not as a burden, but as part of its unique beauty. The price of immortality, paid in tears. Have you ever really thought about what it would be like to live forever? Not just for a long time, but truly forever. It sounds like a superpower, a dream come true for some. But in so many ancient stories, in myths whispered across generations, eternal life isn't always the grand prize we imagine. Often, it comes with a hidden, heavy cost. Here's the thing. These old tales often show us that immortality can be a lonely road. Think of the heroes, the gods, or even cursed figures who gained endless life. They watched the world change. People they love grow old and pass away. Generations come and go, while everything around them keeps moving, shifting, and changing. They stay exactly the same. They can't truly share in the joy or the sorrow of human life because they are outside of it, untouched by time's flow in the same way. It's a bit like being the only one who never finishes a book. Everyone else reads to the end, talks about the ending, and then starts new stories. But you're stuck on the same page, watching them move on, never experiencing the story's full journey or finding a new one. That's a tiny echo of the isolation. Immortal beings might feel the happiness of a new spring, the quiet reflection of autumn. These feelings are often tied to the idea that they won't last forever. So, what do these forgotten myths tell us? They gently remind us that perhaps the most beautiful things in life are those that have a beginning and an end. The tears shed by these immortal characters, the deep sadness they carry, show us a powerful truth. There's a special kind of beauty, a profound meaning, in being human. It's in the way we change, grow, love, and yes, even grieve. It's in the knowledge that moments are precious because they are fleeting. And that's why these myths feel strangely familiar. They teach us to value the short, wonderful journey we're on. A seed that held a universe. Have you ever looked at something really, really small and wondered how something so big could come from it? Like a tiny pebble, or a single drop of water. But what if the whole universe started that way? Many old stories, myths from long ago, tell us just that. They say everything we see, the vast oceans, the towering mountains, the countless stars, all of it began as something incredibly small, across different cultures. People imagined the world emerging from a single, contained thing. Sometimes it was called a cosmic egg. In other myths, it was a tiny seed, or even just an original thought in the mind of a creator. They believed the entire complex, beautiful universe was packed tightly inside this one small beginning, just waiting to unfold. It's a deep idea, isn't it? The thought that all this immensity could be held in something so unassuming. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine a tiny acorn. It sits in your palm, humble and brown. But inside that little acorn is all the potential, all the genetic code, for a giant oak tree. This tree will grow for centuries, its branches reaching wide, its roots deep in the earth. It will offer shade, provide homes for animals, and live through countless seasons. All of that, every single part of that magnificent tree, started from that one small acorn. And that's how these ancient myths saw the universe. Not as an explosion from nothing, but as a gradual blooming from a hidden source. So, the next time you see something small, take a moment, remember these stories, think about the hidden potential, the universe that might be quietly waiting to grow. Whether it's an idea in your own mind, a tiny act of kindness, or just the amazing possibility of what can come from small beginnings. It makes you look at the world a little differently, doesn't it? Echoes in the empty palace. Have you ever felt like a story or a feeling was familiar, even if you couldn't quite remember where it came from? It's a strange sense, like a whisper from far away. This feeling is like an echo in an empty palace. Imagine a grand building, once full of life and people. Now, it's quiet, but walk through its halls, and you still feel something, perhaps the way light falls, or a quiet sense of the past. That lingering feeling is an echo. Our forgotten myths leave these same echoes in our minds. For thousands of years, people told stories to understand their world. They made up myths about why the sun moved, why we feel brave, or why seasons change. These old ways of thinking didn't just vanish. Instead, their core ideas, their deep feelings, lingered. They changed shape, became new stories, but the heart of them remained. It's like an old song, you know, but only part of the melody. You might not know the title or who sang it first, but the tune still feels familiar and means something to you. The echoes are everywhere if you know how to listen. Think about a movie where a character must go on a hard journey, facing strange creatures and finding courage. Doesn't that remind you a little of ancient heroes? Or a tale about someone who tries to fly to high and falls? These ideas aren't new. They are ancient echoes, repeating in different forms, in new stories we tell today. So, when we talk about echoes in the empty palace, we're seeing how the main ideas and emotions of old, forgotten myths still quietly whisper to us. They connect us to everyone who came before. It's a powerful reminder that even when things seem lost, their spirit can live on, shaping our thoughts and the stories we still love. The king who became a bird. Have you ever felt so overwhelmed, so stuck, that you just wished you could fly away? In old stories from across the world, a powerful king, heavy with his crown and duties, sometimes does exactly that. He turns into a bird. It's a myth found in many cultures, showing a deep, shared human desire. Why would someone with all that power want to become something so small, yet utterly free? Think about it. Birds soar high above everything. They see the world from a new angle. They don't have human worries or the crushing weight of a kingdom on their shoulders. Many ancient people saw birds as symbols of the spirit, as messengers to the gods, or even as souls set free from earthly troubles. This idea of a king becoming a bird shows a profound human wish to escape the heavy responsibilities of power, or simply to find relief from being human. It's about finding a different kind of freedom, a lighter way to exist. Here's the thing, maybe you don't wish to sprout wings and fly into the sky, but think about those moments when you feel truly trapped or weighed down. Like when you have too much homework, or you feel misunderstood by friends, or a big decision feels too heavy. Sometimes you just want a different perspective, right? To lift yourself up and see things from a distance, where problems look a little smaller. Or to, just for a moment, be completely free from expectations and heavy feelings. It's like finding that one perfect song that makes you forget everything else, or discovering that quiet spot where you can just breathe deeply and feel light. It's a kind of personal escape, a brief transformation of your mind. So, the story of the king who became a bird isn't just some old, magical tale. It's about letting go of the burdens you carry. It's about wanting a new way to see the world, to gain a fresh outlook when things feel difficult. And it reminds us that sometimes the greatest freedom isn't found in power. Instead, it's found in simply being light and being able to fly, even if only in your own thoughts and dreams. Beneath the mountain, a hidden truth. Have you ever felt like you know a story, even if you've never heard it before? Like a memory buried deep inside you, just waiting to surface. This is how many forgotten myths can feel. Beneath their old words and strange characters, there often lies a hidden truth. It's not about magic or monsters. It's about something deeper inside us all. These stories, from different corners of the world, often touch on the same feelings, the same big questions we still have today. Don't think about it. People living thousands of years ago, on different continents, never met each other. They didn't have phones or planes, but they all looked at the same sky, faced similar fears, and wondered about the same mysteries. Where did we come from? What happens after we die? How do we deal with unfairness? And so, they created stories to make sense of their world. Stories that, surprisingly, often echoed each other. Here's the thing. It's a bit like different kids drawing a picture of happiness. One might draw a sunny day with friends, another a quiet moment reading a book. The pictures are different, but the core feeling, happiness, is the same. Think too about dreams. People all over the world, without ever meeting, often dream of falling or flying or searching for something lost. These shared dream experiences hint at a deeper, shared human mind. It's the same with myths. So many cultures, for instance, tell a story about a huge flood that changed the world, not because they copied each other, but because the idea of a massive, world-changing event, maybe even a reset, is a powerful thought that speaks to something universal about disaster and new beginnings. So, when we look at these forgotten myths, we're not just looking at old tales. We're seeing reflections of ourselves, reaching across time and place. It reminds us that no matter how different we might seem, deep down, humans have always shared a common heartbeat, a common wonder. And that's a pretty amazing discovery, isn't it? The feast that never ended. Have you ever felt like you're always searching for something more? Even after you've found what you thought you wanted. Maybe you got that new game, or finally achieved a goal, and for a moment, it felt great. But then, pretty soon, that feeling of wanting more started up again. This deep, ongoing hunger is what many forgotten myths explore, often through the idea of a feast that never ended. These stories aren't just about food. They describe a longing, a kind of endless craving that never truly gets filled. Imagine ancient heroes or even powerful gods who are always reaching for more knowledge, more power, or more glory. Sometimes, this endless desire was even a punishment. Think of a figure in old Greek myths, forever thirsty with water just out of reach, or always pushing a heavy rock up a hill, only for it to roll back down. These myths show us that humans have always wrestled with this feeling, this sense of incompleteness, no matter how much they gather. It's like when you're scrolling through endless videos on your phone. You watch one, then another, hoping the next one will be the most perfect, funniest, or most interesting. That search often continues, even though you've already seen so much. You keep consuming, but the feeling of being completely satisfied, or having truly found enough, can be hard to reach. These tales of never-ending feasts gently ask us to look inward. What truly makes us feel complete? Is it the constant chase for the next big thing, or is there a quiet peace to be found in appreciating what we have right now? Perhaps the real wisdom from these myths isn't about finding the ultimate feast, but about understanding our own hearts and discovering that contentment might not be found in endless wanting, but in the quiet wisdom of knowing when you have enough. The shadow that stole voices. Have you ever had a thought, a feeling, or a story bubbling inside you, but when it came time to share it, the words just vanished? It's a strange, quiet ache, isn't it? This feeling of a lost voice, of a truth that couldn't find its way out, is ancient. Many old myths, even those we've mostly forgotten, talk about a shadow, not a creature with teeth, but a kind of presence, a force that makes things silent. Think about it this way. For a long time, history was mostly written by a few powerful people. The stories of ordinary folks, especially women, or people from different lands, or those who didn't fit in, their experiences often went unheard. It wasn't always a mean villain doing the silencing. Sometimes it was just how things were, a heavy cultural silence that pushed certain voices into the background. It's like a library where only half the books were ever printed. Imagine all the wisdom, all the unique ways of seeing the world that we missed out on. Here's the thing. This idea of a shadow that steals voices isn't just in ancient tales. It can happen today, in small ways. Maybe you're in a group, and one person talks over everyone else. Or maybe you feel shy to share a really personal thought, fearing others won't get it. It's like a quiet part of you decides it's safer to stay hidden. That feeling, that moment when your voice gets trapped, that's the echo of those old shadows. So when we look at these forgotten myths, we aren't just hearing old stories. We're thinking about the voices that were once strong, then faded, or were never truly heard at all. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other truths, what other beautiful ideas are still waiting in the quiet, just hoping for a chance to be spoken? And how can we make sure we listen, really listen, for them? Because every voice, even the quietest one, holds a piece of our shared human story. Finding courage in a small stone. Have you ever wondered where courage truly comes from? Does it burst forth like a grand roar? Or can it be found in something small, something quiet? Think about a tiny stone, smoothed by a river. It doesn't look like much, but sometimes, in old stories, or even just in our own lives, the smallest things hold the most power. This isn't about magic, not really. It's about what we believe in, what we carry with us, and what reminds us of our own strength. Across history, people have often looked to simple objects for comfort and courage, not because the object itself was special, but because it represented something. Maybe it was a pebble from a brave ancestor's land, or a piece of something sacred. These weren't just random items, they were anchors. They reminded people that, even when things felt big and scary, they had something small, solid, and enduring to hold on to. It's a bit like a quiet promise you make to yourself. Here's what I mean. Imagine you have a big presentation in class, and your stomach is doing. You might wear a favorite shirt, or maybe you absent-mindedly rub a small smooth stone in your pocket. That stone doesn't suddenly make you a brilliant speaker, but holding it, feeling its coolness, can help you focus. It's a silent, steady reminder that you can do this. It grounds you, helping you gather your thoughts and face what's ahead. It helps you find that quiet place inside where courage lives. So, the courage isn't truly in the stone itself. It's in what the stone helps you remember about yourself. It's about finding strength in simplicity, knowing that even a small, ordinary thing can remind you of the courage you already have. It's a quiet truth. Sometimes, the mightiest courage isn't loud or flashy. It's a deep, calm whisper, often found when you least expect it, perhaps in the simple feel of a small stone in your hand. The weeping rock of ages past. Have you ever stood in a very old place, maybe near an ancient tree or a weathered stone wall, and felt a strange quietness, like the air held a deep, silent sadness? This is the weeping rock of ages past. It's not a rock that cries. Instead, it's a feeling, how certain places seem to hold the echoes of time. They absorb the silent stories of joy, struggle, and loss that happened there long ago. Across the world, many old stories say nature itself can feel. Mountains watched, rivers remembered, and certain rocks seemed to take in human emotions. Maybe a big battle happened near a hill, or a family lived by a spring for generations. The idea was these places became silent witnesses. They held on to the feelings of all who came before. They might not speak, but you could almost feel their history, heavy like a deep sigh. Here's how it works in a small way. Think about your favorite old toy. It's just a toy, right? But for you, it holds so many memories. It saw your happy days, your sad ones, your secrets. It absorbed a piece of your past. When you hold it, you don't just see plastic or fabric. You feel all those moments. That's a bit like how a weeping rock feels. It's an old school building that carries the quiet talks of past students, or a park where generations have played. The ground itself remembers. So what does it mean if places can feel this way, even just in our minds? It suggests we are all connected, not just to each other, but to time itself. It makes us pause and think about the invisible marks we leave behind, and it reminds us that even quiet things can hold the weight of history. They invite us to listen closely to their silent stories, to feel the deep breath of ages past. It's a quiet truth about how the world remembers. When animals taught humans wisdom, have you ever really watched an animal? I mean truly watched it. Not just what it does, but how it moves, how it survives, how it waits. For thousands of years, long before schools or written books, our ancestors found their classrooms in the wild. They didn't just hunt animals, they studied them. They saw how a spider spun its perfect web, how a beaver built a strong dam, or how a pack of wolves worked together to find food. And that's why many old stories and forgotten myths tell us something profound. That animals taught humans wisdom. Think about cultures all over the world, from Native American tribes to ancient Greek storytellers. Many believed animals were not just creatures, but wise beings, sometimes even spirits, holding deep secrets about life. They were seen as messengers, guides, or even ancestors. These myths remind us that humans learned about courage from a lion, patience from a heron, and perseverance from a salmon swimming upstream. It was a different way of learning, not from a textbook, but from the very rhythm of life around them. Here's the thing. Even today, we can see this. Look at a tiny ant. It works tirelessly, carrying things many times its own size, never giving up. It builds complex tunnels, always part of a larger community, helping its colony thrive. When you see that, you might think about how much hard work and teamwork really matter in your own life. Maybe for a group project at school, or when you're trying to learn something difficult. That ant isn't just an insect. It's a silent lesson in perseverance and cooperation. So, maybe wisdom isn't always spoken in words or written on pages. Sometimes, it's whispered by the wind through the leaves, or shown in the quiet strength of a tree, or in the focused journey of an animal. It's a reminder that we are part of a much bigger, older story, and the natural world still has so much to teach us, if we only take the time to listen and truly see. The wind's forgotten song. Have you ever really listened to the wind? Not just the sound it makes, but what it might be carrying. Sometimes, when the wind blows past, it feels like more than just air moving quickly. It feels like a whisper from a very, very old time, a voice that speaks without words, touching something deep inside. For thousands of years, people didn't just see the wind as weather. They believed it had a voice, a spirit, or even carried important messages from other worlds. Imagine sitting by a flickering fire in ancient times, listening to the wind howl or sigh outside. You might think it was a song sung by a forgotten god, or the quiet breath of a long-lost ancestor. This wasn't just a story, it was how they truly understood the world around them. The wind connected them to the distant past, to the great unknown, and to deep feelings about life itself. It was a bridge between what they saw and what they felt. It's a bit like when you hear a melody for the first time, but it makes you feel something strong and familiar, maybe a bit sad, or wonderfully calm, or surprisingly hopeful. You don't know why, and you can't place the song, but the feeling is incredibly real. The wind can be like that too. It carries faint echoes of emotions, of ancient beliefs, and of old ways of seeing the world that once shaped entire communities. It reminds us of a time when people felt deeply connected to every part of nature, believing trees, rivers, and even the air itself held ancient secrets. So, the next time the wind rustles the leaves outside your window or pushes against you on a blustery day, try to listen in a slightly different way. Feel how it might be a faint memory, a quiet breath, from a time when the world felt bigger and more mysterious. It's a calm reminder that even when old stories fade from books or from our minds, some parts of them, like powerful feelings or connections, can linger in the very air we breathe. It connects us to a vast human experience that is much older than any single person, stretching back through time, carried on the wind's quiet, never-ending journey. A gift from the deep blue sea. Have you ever felt a strange echo inside you, like a memory that isn't really yours? It's a feeling you get when you hear an old story, maybe about a hero or a monster, and it just clicks. It feels familiar, even if you've never heard that exact myth before. This is what we're talking about when we think of a gift from the deep blue sea. Think of the ocean. It's vast and mysterious. Down in its deepest parts, there are things we can't see, things that have been there for a very long time, buried and forgotten, but they are still there. In a way, our shared human experience is like that ocean. Deep within us, across all cultures and all times, there are common feelings, fears, and hopes. These aren't just thoughts, they are more like the currents and tides of our shared human heart. So, here's the thing. Long ago, people lived in very different places. They couldn't text or call each other, but somehow, they told similar stories. Why? Because some parts of being human are universal. Everyone knows what it feels like to be scared of the dark, or to hope for a better tomorrow. Everyone understands what it means to face a challenge or to miss someone you love. These basic human truths are like treasures, buried deep in our collective sea. For example, think about how almost every culture has a story about a great flood, or a powerful figure who brought light to the world. These stories aren't exactly the same, but the core idea is there. It's like our minds, deep down, share some basic ideas. You know that feeling when you meet someone new and instantly feel like you've known them forever. It's not quite the same, but it's a small hint of a deep connection beyond words. These forgotten myths are like messages sent across time, carried by the deep currents of human experience. They might seem like old tales, but they speak to the parts of us that never really change. They remind us that even across thousands of years, and even if the stories themselves fade, the deep human feelings behind them still connect us all, like echoes from a shared ancient ocean. And that's a very calm, comforting thought. The mirror that showed your soul. Have you ever looked in a mirror and wished it could show you more than just your face? What if it could somehow look into you, past your skin and clothes, to see the real you, your feelings, your secret thoughts, your true spirit? Imagine a mirror like that. This isn't just a fun idea from a fantasy book. It's a concept that echoes through many forgotten myths, showing up in stories from long ago. In these tales, heroes or even everyday folks might come across a magical surface that somehow revealed their deepest nature, sometimes in a beautiful way, and sometimes in a way that felt a little unsettling. For hundreds of years, people have wondered about who they truly are, beyond what others can see. Ancient thinkers and wise people, long before we had words like psychology, often talked about the importance of knowing thyself. This meant understanding your own character, what makes you strong, and what makes you human. They believed that real wisdom came from this kind of inner looking, almost like holding a mental mirror up to your own core. It was about seeing yourself honestly, without any masks. Here's an example you might know. Think about a time you felt one way inside, but acted differently on the outside. Maybe you were super nervous about giving a speech in class but tried really hard to look calm and confident. Or maybe you were feeling sad, but you put on a brave smile so your friends wouldn't worry. A soul mirror from those myths wouldn't show your calm face or your brave smile. It would show the butterflies, fluttering in your stomach, or the quiet ache hiding in your heart. It would show the truth that your outside might have been trying to hide. So, here's the thing. Maybe the real mirror that showed your soul isn't something you can find or buy. Perhaps it's those quiet moments when you truly think about your own actions, your own feelings, and the choices you make. It's about taking an honest look inward. This can help you understand who you are becoming and who you really want to be. It's about finding that deepest truth, not on a shiny surface, but deep inside yourself, where all your true colors live. Running from the sun's fury, have you ever thought about the sun, not just as a light, but as a living, powerful being? For thousands of years, people looked up at that burning orb and saw more than just a star. They saw a god, a spirit, a mighty ruler whose anger could scorch the land. Imagine endless days without rain, crops turning to dust, the very air thick with heat. These weren't just weather patterns. They were often seen as the sun's fury, chasing after humanity. And so, myths were born, stories of heroes or entire peoples trying to outrun, outsmart, or somehow hide from this golden gaze. It reflects a very old human fear, the fear of nature's power when it feels too much, too overwhelming. Think about it. Our ancestors lived so closely with the land. A long drought wasn't just inconvenient, it was life or death. So, they created stories to make sense of this immense power, to give it a personality, and to explain why it might sometimes turn against them. Here's the thing. You've probably felt a version of this yourself. Think about when the summer sun is so strong, it almost burns. You instinctively look for shade, right? That feeling, that need to hide from something too intense, is ancient. It's a natural human response to seek protection when faced with something truly powerful, something we can't control. These ancient tales, where characters literally flee from the sun, are really about humanity's deep-seated need for safety and comfort. They remind us that we are part of a massive world, and sometimes, the best we can do is find our own quiet corner in its vastness. It's about finding peace, even when the world outside feels too bright, too loud, or too strong. The boy who lost his shadow. Have you ever really looked at your shadow? That dark shape that follows you, always there, reflecting your every move. It's just light being blocked, right? But imagine for a moment, what if it just vanished? Not because the sun went away, but because it left you. This isn't just a strange idea, it's a very old feeling, a myth found in many quiet corners of our world. Think about it. In some ancient stories, your shadow wasn't just a trick of the light. People believed it was a piece of your soul, or your spirit, something tied directly to who you are. If you lost your shadow, it meant you were incomplete, maybe even losing your connection to the real world, like becoming less human, fading away. This is not about a scary monster. It's about a deep, quiet sadness. It's about losing something essential that makes you you. Here's an example. You know how sometimes you might feel a little different after a big change, like moving to a new town or starting a new school. You might feel like a part of your old self. That comfortable, familiar you is kind of gone, like it's been left behind. That feeling, that sense of a missing piece, is a bit like losing your shadow. It's when a part of your identity, maybe a brave part or a funny part, feels hidden or forgotten. So, the myth of losing your shadow isn't about literal darkness. It's a gentle reminder that every single part of us matters, even the parts we don't always show, the parts we might try to hide, or the parts we feel we've lost along the way. To be truly whole, we need to acknowledge and care for all those pieces, seen and unseen. It reminds us that our true selves are always there, waiting to be fully present. A doorway made of starlight. Have you ever had a dream that felt incredibly real, like you'd been there before, or heard an old story that just clicked inside you, even if it was new? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? This doorway made of starlight isn't a real door. Instead, it's about moments when something forgotten suddenly feels deeply familiar. It's like a path of ancient light, connecting us to ideas and feelings that have been around for ages. These forgotten myths are whispers from long ago that resonate within us, almost as if we remember them, though we haven't heard them consciously. Think about how people, across different times and places, have told similar stories. Heroes on journeys, facing creatures, finding magic. These tales popped up in cultures that never knew each other existed. Here's the thing, it's not magic, but maybe it shows us something about being human. Perhaps deep down, our minds have shared patterns, like a shared code. A famous thinker called this the collective unconscious. It's like a shared library of symbols we all carry. So, hearing these myths is like looking at pictures from that very old library inside us. For example, imagine you're in a new place, far from home. Suddenly, a smell, like fresh-baked cookies, brings back a strong memory of your grandmother's kitchen. That new place feels strangely like home for a moment. That's a tiny doorway, a quick flash of starlight, connecting you to something deeply personal. In a similar way, these myths connect us to a past we all share, even across thousands of years. So, forgotten myths are not just old tales, they are quiet whispers from a shared human past, echoing inside us. They remind us that even though times change, the core feelings and big questions about life, about good and bad, have always been there, and that's why it matters. It's a quiet comfort, knowing we're all part of this vast, continuing story, connected by ancient, starlit paths we barely notice. The hunter and the invisible prey. Have you ever felt like you're searching for something, but you don't even know what it is? It's like a whisper on the wind, a half-remembered dream that slips away the moment you try to hold it. That's a little like the idea of the hunter and the invisible prey. Think about it. For a long time, humans tried to understand things they couldn't see or touch. They looked at stars, wondering about fate. They dreamed wild dreams, seeking meaning. Sometimes, they felt a presence in a quiet forest, or heard a voice in the wind, believing it was a spirit. These feelings, these mysteries just out of reach, became the invisible prey. And humanity, always curious, became the hunter. It wasn't about catching an animal. It was about finding an idea, a truth, an answer to a big question. Why are we here, or what happens after we die? Our old myths often came from this hunt. People made tales to explain what they couldn't grasp, to give shape to the unknown. Here's the thing. You know that feeling when a word is right on the tip of your tongue. You know it, but it just won't come out. Or when you walk into a new room and feel like you've been there before. That strange sense of something familiar, even if it's new. That's a small, everyday version of hunting invisible prey. It's a thought, a memory, a connection that feels real but can't be fully caught. So, maybe we're all hunters in some way, always looking for understanding that dances just beyond our sight. And maybe the important part isn't catching the prey, but the journey of looking. It's a reminder that some truths are felt more than seen, like echoes of old, forgotten ideas that still gently tug at our minds, making the unknown feel strangely familiar. Where time stood still, have you ever felt a moment stretch out, almost as if the world held its breath? Maybe during a really intense part of a game, or when you were completely lost in a song, and suddenly, minutes felt like hours, or hours vanished. In a blink. This strange feeling, this bending of time, is a deep, ancient idea found in countless forgotten myths. Don't imagine places where time itself seemed to pause, not just slow down, but truly stop. These myths often tell of enchanted islands, hidden valleys, or magical forests where mortals could stumble in. If you entered, you might spend what felt like mere hours, only to return to your world and find hundreds of years had passed. Or, sometimes, a hero would have one incredible, heroic moment, and that single moment would echo through eternity, almost like it was still happening, forever frozen in importance. Ancient thinkers, even before clocks, wondered about time. Was it a river always flowing? Or could it be a still lake, with ripples from our lives? For example, the Celtic legends speak of Tirana, the land of eternal youth. Mortals who journeyed there found no aging, no sickness, just endless beauty. One famous tale tells of Oisin, who went to Tyr, an Aenog, and stayed for 300 years, feeling only a few weeks had passed. When he returned to Ireland, his strength failed him, and he crumbled into dust, because the normal flow of time caught up. Think about a time you were totally absorbed in something you love, maybe drawing, writing a story, or practicing a sport. You look up, and an hour has flown by, but it felt like 5 minutes. That focused state, where your awareness of time fades, is a tiny glimpse into these myths. It's like a personal time warp. These myths aren't just fantasy stories. They whisper about our human wish to escape the hurried rush of life. They make us wonder if certain experiences are so powerful, so deeply felt, that they exist outside the normal march of seconds and minutes. Maybe the most important moments of our lives, the ones filled with love or wonder, are those very places where, for us, time truly stands still. It reminds us that time isn't just about what the clock it says, but about how deeply we live and feel. The thread that connects us all. Have you ever heard a story and felt like you'd heard it before? Not the exact story, but the feeling, the main idea. It's a strange feeling, like a whisper. This feeling points to something amazing, a hidden thread. It's a thread woven through all human history. Think about it. Why do many cultures, separated by oceans and years, have stories about heroes on hard journeys? Why do we find tales of tricksters or great floods in places that never met? They didn't copy each other. Something deep inside all of us sparks these same ideas. Thinkers and storytellers have talked about this for ages. They call them archetypes, universal patterns. Our shared human heart seems to beat to a similar rhythm everywhere. Here's an example. Imagine a popular song today. The lyrics might be different, but the rhythm or feeling reminds you of an older song. You can't quite say why, but the vibe feels similar. Our brains like to see patterns, to recognize common human experiences. Maybe it's fear of the unknown, joy of discovery, or the pain of loss. These feelings are universal. When these old myths feel strangely familiar, it's not magic. It's a reflection of our shared humanity staring back. So, when we find these ancient tales, remember they are more than just old stories. They are echoes of a universal human journey. They remind us that across time and cultures, we are all part of the same grand story. And in that, there's a quiet comfort, a deep sense of belonging. The giant who held up the sky. Have you ever wondered what holds everything together? Not just a ceiling or a roof, but the whole big wide sky above us. Long ago, before science could explain stars and planets, people watched the immense blue and felt its weight. They needed an answer for why it didn't crash down. So, in many ancient stories, they imagined a giant, a powerful being, with muscles like mountains, whose very purpose was to stand, shoulders bowed, holding up the heavens. This wasn't just a fun story, it was a way to understand the world. Think about it. Our ancestors saw the sky as a heavy roof. They needed something strong to support it. And this giant, often known as Atlas in Greek myths, became a picture of responsibility. He wasn't just strong, he was endlessly patient, carrying a burden so huge it could crush anything else. He taught people about the unseen forces that keep order and the quiet, constant effort needed for things to simply be. Here's the thing, we all carry our own skies. Maybe it's the feeling of responsibility for your grades, or helping out your family when things are tough, or even just showing up for your friends every day. It's like when you have a big project due, and it feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You might not see the effort, but it's there, holding things up, keeping your own world from falling apart. So, this myth isn't just about a giant far away. It's a reminder of the quiet strength inside us. It's about the burdens we carry, the unseen efforts that make life work, and how a steady, patient heart can hold up even the heaviest of skies. It teaches us that sometimes, the most important work is simply to stand firm. A feather that could grant wishes. What if a single, delicate feather held the power to change everything? Across quiet stories and ancient whispers, there's a gentle myth. It speaks of a special feather, often from a rare, unseen bird, that isn't just a feather. It's said to carry the very essence of possibility, a silent promise that dreams, no matter how big, can take flight. For a long time, in different cultures, feathers were seen as powerful signs. They connected earth to sky, reminding people of freedom, spirits, or even gods watching over them. Think about Native American cultures, where feathers are sacred, symbolizing honor, bravery, and strength. Or consider ancient Egyptian beliefs, where the goddess Mat famously weighed a person's heart against a feather to judge their truth and goodness. Feathers were never just simple bits of down. They always held deep, unspoken meaning. But this feather isn't like a magic wand you wave for instant results. It's more about belief, about deep, quiet hope that sits within you. Here's the thing, we often wish for big things, right? Maybe to do well on a challenging test, or to finally master a new, tricky skill. You don't just wake up knowing it. Instead, you hold on to that wish, that tiny spark of a goal. You study, you practice. It's like a scientist working on a very difficult problem. They don't have a magic solution immediately, but they have a tiny spark of an idea, a feather of possibility they keep with them. They try and try, building on that small idea, and then, often, with focused effort and a strong belief in their goal, they find an answer. So, what does this forgotten myth really teach us? Maybe it's not about finding a literal feather lying on the ground, some magical object we just stumble upon. Instead, maybe the true feather is inside us. It's that fragile, hopeful part that quietly believes in what's possible, even when things feel hard or unsure. It's the quiet trust that if we truly want something good, and we put in the dedicated work, our wishes, in their own way, can start to unfurl and come true. It's a gentle reminder that hope, like a feather, is light, but it has the incredible power to lift even the biggest dreams and carry them to faraway places we once only imagined. The first dream before sleep. Have you ever been lying in bed, not quite awake, not quite asleep? That in-between space where thoughts float by like clouds and strange images flicker behind your eyelids. This quiet moment, right on the edge of sleep, has a special name, the hypnagogic state. But let's call it the first dream before sleep. It's a time when your mind isn't fully in control, and it starts to play. A gentle warm-up for the adventures of true dreaming. Long ago, people didn't have words like hypno, but they certainly felt this moment. Ancient philosophers wondered about it deeply. Some believed it was when the soul began to wander, visiting other worlds, or even receiving important messages from the gods. They thought it was a sacred, creative time, a bridge between our waking life and the deep mysteries of the night. It's where new ideas might spark, or tricky problems could quietly untangle themselves. A quiet conversation happening deep inside your head. Think about when you're drawing, idly in class, not really trying to create anything specific. Your pencil just moves on its own. Lines appear, shapes form, maybe a funny creature. You're not fully focused on the drawing, and you're not fully listening to the lesson either. You're in a middle space, letting your hand guide itself. This first dream is a bit like that. It's your brain letting go of the need to be on, exploring without rules or limits. It's a hint of the freedom your mind has. So, the next time you're drifting off, pay attention to these moments. Notice those fleeting images, the sudden sounds that aren't real, the odd thoughts that pop up and then vanish. This gentle opening of the mind is a quiet reminder. It shows how our inner world is always moving, always creating, even when we're just resting. It's a soft whisper of the imagination, inviting us to wonder at the vastness inside us, even before we fully dream. It reminds us that magic often starts softly, right at the edges of our everyday, just waiting for us to notice. The city that walked on water. Have you ever thought about how strange it would be if a whole city could just move, not like a boat, but like the ground it stood on was always shifting, always flowing? This is the heart of some forgotten myths. The idea of cities that walk on water, not built on it, but somehow part of it, drifting or rising and falling with the waves. It's more than just a cool image. Many cultures, from ancient tribes near rivers to island nations surrounded by oceans, had stories about places that weren't fixed. Think about the famous myth of Atlantis, which was swallowed by the sea. But what if a city didn't just disappear, but stayed alive, just out of sight, carried by the currents of time and memory? These myths often remind us that nothing truly stays the same. Everything changes, like how a river might carve a new path over many years, or how a coastline slowly shifts. Here's the thing, our own lives can feel a bit like a city on water sometimes. One day, everything feels solid and clear, like a perfectly still pond. The next, a big wave of feelings or changes rolls in. Maybe a friendship changes, or you learn something new that makes you see everything differently. Just like those mythical cities, we're always moving, even when we don't feel it. Our thoughts flow, our understanding expands. We collect memories, and some of them feel like they're just floating there, almost real, almost touchable, but not quite fixed. So, these stories about cities that walk on water aren't just fantasy. They show us something true about the world and about ourselves. That some things are meant to be fluid, to adapt, to simply flow. Maybe the deepest lessons aren't found on solid ground, but in embracing what shifts and changes, like a city carried by the endless, quiet sea. The curse of the golden touch. Have you ever wished for something so much that you thought it would solve all your problems? What if that wish came true, but in a way you never expected, turning your greatest desire into your deepest sorrow? This is the old, sad tale of King Midas, a story told for thousands of years. He wished that everything he touched would turn to gold. At first, it felt like magic. Imagine a simple stone, a flower, even the dirt beneath your feet, shimmering into pure, heavy gold. He must have felt so powerful, so rich. But then, the real truth of his wish began to show itself. His food turned to glittering, inedible metal. His cool, clear water became a hardened, golden goblet. And the worst part, when he reached out to hug his own daughter, she too transformed into a cold, lifeless statue of gold. This isn't just a spooky story from ancient Greece. It's a quiet whisper about human nature. It tells us that sometimes what we think we want most isn't what we truly need. Too much of a good thing can stop being good at all. Think about it like this. Imagine your favorite song in the whole world. You love it. You listen to it once, twice, maybe 10 times a day. But if you had to listen to only that song, every single minute, for days on end, how long would it stay your favorite? The joy would fade, right? It would become a kind of prison, even if it was something you once loved deeply. The myth of Midas reminds us that true riches aren't found in what we can hold, or what shines brightest. They're often hidden in the simple things: a warm meal, a refreshing drink, the soft touch of a loved one's hand. It's about balance. It's about understanding that life's most precious treasures are often invisible, made of feelings and connections, not of material things. And sometimes, the very things we think we desperately need can actually take away the things that truly make life golden. It leaves us wondering, what truly has value in our world? What do we truly cherish? The girl who lived on clouds. Have you ever felt a memory that isn't yours? A whisper of a story that feels strangely familiar, like a half-remembered dream. There's a myth, not from ancient books, but from the quiet spaces inside us, about a girl who lived on clouds. This isn't a story of magic, but how our minds lift themselves when life feels too heavy. It's how people long ago described finding peace above their worries. Old stories often made feelings part of nature. A stormy sky meant anger, a gentle breeze, peace. So, a girl on clouds wasn't literally flying. It was a poetic way to describe a spirit that couldn't be held down, a soul that found escape. Many cultures have tales of people living above the world, rising beyond struggles. It's about our deepest hopes for freedom, for a place problems can't touch. Here's the thing, you know that feeling when you're really into a book or drawing. The world around you kind of fades away. Your mind is somewhere else, totally absorbed. That's a bit like living on clouds. Your worries dim, and you're just present in that moment, lifted by what you love. Or think about when you stare out the window, watching the clouds. Your thoughts drift. For a moment, you're not thinking about homework. That feeling of being light, untroubled, that's a glimpse of the girl on the clouds. This myth reminds us it's okay to seek calm, even if it's just in your mind. We all need to find our clouds sometimes. Those moments or thoughts that lift us above the noise and give us space to breathe. Maybe the girl on the clouds isn't a forgotten myth at all. Maybe she's that part of us that yearns for peace, finding strength in rising above, even when our feet are still on the ground. When the stars were once people, have you ever looked up at the night sky, at all those tiny lights, and felt a strange pull? Like maybe, just maybe, they aren't only balls of gas, but something more. For ages, people believed the stars were not just lights. They thought those glowing points were once people, or heroes, or even gods. And when you think about it, that idea feels oddly familiar, doesn't it? This wasn't about science, not how we know it today. It was about making sense of the world, finding meaning in the vast unknown above us. Imagine living without streetlights, TV, or phones. The night sky was everything. It told stories. It guided travelers, and when someone important died, or a big event happened, it was natural to imagine their spirit rising, becoming part of that eternal, watchful sky. It was a way to keep memories alive, to make loss feel less harsh. Here's how it works. If someone you loved was gone, their story could still be seen, shining down, reminding you they were still part of everything. Think about it like this. When you look at an old photograph of someone you love, a grandparent no longer here, that picture isn't them, right? But it holds their memory. It connects you to their story, their laughter, their wisdom. The stars were like the universe's oldest photographs. They were not just bright spots. They were vivid memories etched into darkness. each twinkle a silent whisper of an ancient tale, a reminder of lives lived, lessons learned, and love shared. And that's why it matters. This idea tells us something deep about what it means to be human. We want to remember. We want our stories to last. We want to feel connected, even across vast distances and time. So, when we look up tonight, maybe those stars aren't just lights. Maybe they're echoes. Echoes of lives, of feelings, of stories that never fade. Forever woven into the fabric of the universe, watching over us, guiding us home. The whisper of a sacred well. Have you ever stood by a natural spring, or felt a deep quietness near a very old tree? There's a special feeling, isn't there? A sense of something ancient, something that has seen many, many years. For people long ago, certain places on earth held this feeling even more strongly, and sacred wells were among the most powerful of these spots. These weren't just everyday puddles or streams. Imagine a deep pool of water, perhaps hidden away in a misty forest, or bubbling gently up from beneath ancient stones. People truly believed these wells were special gates. They thought the earth itself breathed at these places, and the water carried secrets from the unseen world. It was a spot where gods or spirits might listen, where healing could happen, or where a seeker might find wisdom. Think about how vital water is to life. Without it, nothing grows. So, a place where clean water constantly came from the ground felt like a true miracle, a gift from something divine. Many cultures, from the old Celts in Europe to tribes in North America, shared stories about sacred wells. People would visit them to ask for help, to leave an offering, or just to feel close to something much bigger than themselves. It was like how some people today go to a quiet spot, maybe a library or a peaceful park, when they need to think clearly or feel calm. The sacred well was that quiet spot, but with a deeper, spiritual connection. It was a place to wash away worries, to feel renewed. Here's the thing, even if we don't believe in water spirits anymore, the idea of a sacred well still whispers to us. It reminds us that finding calm, finding answers, often comes from connecting with something simple and pure. It's about taking a quiet moment to listen, not just to the world around us, but to the quieter parts of ourselves. And that's a kind of wisdom, a deep peace that never truly fades, much like the constant flow from a deep, hidden spring. The hero who feared his own strength. Have you ever felt a little scared of something you were really good at? Maybe you're super fast, but you worry about accidentally tripping someone. Or perhaps you're amazing at drawing, but then you feel pressure to always be perfect. This feeling, this strange fear of your own power, is actually something old myths often explore. Many ancient stories tell us about heroes who had incredible strength or unique gifts. But here's the thing, this power wasn't always a blessing. Sometimes, it felt like a heavy weight. It could lead to accidental harm, or cause the hero great sadness. Think about myths like Hercules, for example. He was impossibly strong, but his strength could also cause him to lose control. In moments of madness, brought on by others, he sometimes hurt the very people he loved. This isn't just a tale about muscles. It's a deep look at what happens when your greatest gift feels like your heaviest burden. These stories show us that true strength isn't just about how much you can lift or how fast you can run. It's about something much harder, controlling yourself, especially when you have immense power. It's about learning how to manage that gift so it helps, rather than harms. Imagine a student who is incredibly smart. That's a wonderful ability. But what if they feel overwhelmed by the expectation to always know every answer? Or they worry their knowledge makes others feel less capable? This can help you understand or think about a powerful storm. It brings much needed rain, but also immense destruction if not managed. So, these heroes in old myths, fearing their own immense strength, teach us a quiet, profound lesson. Our own unique abilities, whatever they are, come with a responsibility. Learning to hold our power gently, to guide it with wisdom and kindness, might be the bravest journey we ever take. It's about making sure your strength serves you, rather than becoming a cage for your spirit. A song that calmed the storm. Have you ever noticed how a certain song can completely change how you feel? A quiet melody might bring calm to a busy day, or a strong beat could help you push through something tough. Now, imagine this deep power wasn't just about your feelings, but about the world itself. Doesn't that idea feel strangely familiar, like an echo from somewhere ancient inside us? Ancient myths often tell powerful stories of a voice, a chant, or a musical instrument so strong it could literally calm a raging storm, mend broken things, or even soothe wild beasts. These weren't just fun tales. Here's the thing. People back then truly believed that sound and harmony held a deep, almost magical connection to how the world worked. They saw music not just as entertainment, but as a force that could bring order to chaos, an invisible language the universe understood. Imagine a ship caught in a terrible tempest, waves crashing, lightning flashing. Then, a brave hero sings, and the winds soften, the waves gentle, the sky clears. It sounds impossible, right? But here's what I found. Even if a literal song can't stop a hurricane, the core idea points to something real about us. Think about how your heartbeat changes from a sudden loud noise versus a soft lullaby. Your body reacts. It's like when you're stressed about a big test, putting on calm music can actually slow your breathing, clear your mind, and make you feel more grounded. This can help you focus. This might work for you. It's about finding an inner rhythm, a peaceful frequency that helps balance the storm inside your own head or around you. So, these old myths remind us that harmony, whether it's musical notes playing together or just a quiet feeling of peace, within oozes an incredibly powerful force. It suggests that even when the outside world feels loud and chaotic, there's always a quiet, calming song we can find or create that can help us navigate life's rough waters. And that's why it matters, because knowing we have this ability, even if just within ourselves, is a pretty profound and hopeful idea. The forest where trees talked. Have you ever walked into a deep forest and felt like it was holding secrets? Like the ancient trees watched you with silent wisdom? For centuries, people have imagined forests where trees could speak, not with words we understand, but with whispers carried on the wind, or through the rustle of leaves. It's a beautiful idea, one that touches something deep inside us. Many old myths, from different parts of the world, tell us stories about talking trees. The ancient Greeks had dryads, which were spirits living inside trees, protecting them. Native American tales often describe trees as wise elders, sharing knowledge with those who listened carefully. These stories weren't just made up for fun, or to scare children. They came from a deep feeling that nature was truly alive, and that everything was connected in ways we don't always see with our eyes alone. Here's the thing. While trees don't literally chat out loud, modern science is finding something amazing. Trees in a forest are often linked underground by tiny fungi, kind of like a giant natural internet. They can share nutrients, send warnings about dangers, and even support sick trees through these hidden connections beneath the soil. Think about how you share thoughts with a friend without saying a word, just by looking at them, or how you know a family member is upset just by their quietness. It's a different kind of talking, isn't it? Trees do something similar, just on a much bigger, slower scale. So, when an old myth talks about trees speaking, maybe it's not so far from the truth after all. Maybe it's a way for our ancestors to remind us that everything around us is connected, more than we can easily imagine. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if, listening closely to the world, even the quiet parts, teaches us something important? What if those forgotten stories were trying to tell us something vital about how we belong to the forest, and the forest belongs to us, in a silent conversation that never truly ends? The old woman who knew everything. Have you ever wondered if there's someone out there who just knows everything? Not like a super smart teacher, but someone who understands the very heart of things, the hidden truths of the world, across cultures, in stories whispered through time. There's often this figure, the old woman who knew everything. She isn't usually a literal person you could go visit. Here's the thing, she's a symbol. She stands for the deep, ancient wisdom that has been passed down through generations. Think of it like this. Before there were books or the internet, how did people learn about plants that heal, or how the stars move, or the best way to live a good life? They learned from their elders. And often, it was the older women in a community who carried these stories, these traditions, this quiet understanding of the world. They were like living libraries, holding the shared memories of humanity. This old woman knows not just facts, but also feelings. She understands loss, joy, struggle, and peace. It's like when you try to fix something broken, like a bike chain. At first, you might struggle, but maybe your grandparent, who's fixed many things over many years, steps in. They don't just tell you what to do. They seem to instinctively know the right wrench, the exact twist, That's the kind of deep, knowing wisdom we're talking about. It's built over a lifetime of experience and listening. So, this myth teaches us something important. It reminds us to slow down. It asks us to look closely at the quiet wisdom all around us, in nature, in the stories from our past, and especially in the experiences of older people. This old woman who knew everything might just be a reminder that true wisdom isn't loud or flashy. Instead, it grows patiently, like an old tree, holding many secrets within its roots and branches. It's there waiting for us to listen, to learn, and to feel its familiar echo deep inside ourselves. The secret of the shifting sands. Have you ever stopped to think about how some things just change? Not in a sudden way, but slowly, almost invisibly, like the desert sands moving with the wind. This is the secret of the shifting sands when it comes to forgotten myths. Imagine the desert. One day, a huge dune stands tall, but then the wind blows, day after day, year after year. That dune doesn't stay still. Its shape changes, its location shifts. Maybe it even disappears completely, swallowed by other sands, only to reveal something old hidden beneath, perhaps for just a moment. Here's the thing, myths can be like that. Long ago, people told stories by speaking them. There were no books or recordings. So, as these stories passed from one person to the next, over many, many years, they could shift. Maybe one detail was forgotten. Maybe another was added to make the story fit a new time or place. Sometimes, an entire myth might just fade away, like sand covered by new layers, but the tiny, important grains of truth or feeling inside them often remain. Think about a game of telephone you might play with friends. The message starts out clear, but by the time it gets to the last person, it's often a little different, right? Maybe a word changed, or the meaning got twisted. Or imagine how a popular song gets covered by different artists. It's still the same song, but each version has a slightly different feel. That's how myths can be. They change, but the core feeling, the original echo, is still there, and that's why it matters. It reminds us that stories, even ancient myths, are alive. They move and breathe, just like we do. They adapt to new times, or they might just go quiet for a while. And just because we don't hear a story anymore, it doesn't mean its spirit isn't still out there, waiting for the wind to uncover it again. It makes you wonder what parts of our own stories, our own beliefs, are constantly shifting too. A map drawn by the wind. What if some maps aren't drawn with ink and paper, but with feelings and whispers? What if there are ancient paths inside us, paths we didn't consciously learn, but somehow, we just know? It's a strange thought. But, here's the thing, many old stories, these forgotten myths, feel strangely familiar not because we've heard them before, but because they touch something deep within us. Think about it this way. Long, long ago, people faced the same big feelings we do today. They felt wonder looking at the stars, fear in the dark, and joy when loved ones were safe. These powerful feelings, shared by countless people for thousands of years, might have left echoes. It's like these experiences traveled through time, not written in books, but passed on through a kind of deep human memory. Some thinkers, like Carl Jung, believed we all shared this collective unconscious. It's not a physical place, but more like a shared dream space for all humanity, filled with universal ideas and symbols that resonate with us. And here's a relatable example. Have you ever had that strange feeling of déjà vu? That moment when you walk into a new place, or hear a new song, and you just know you've experienced it before. It's like a tiny echo from a forgotten past, a whisper from that map drawn by the wind, stirring a memory you never actually made. Or think about why so many cultures, far apart, have similar stories about heroes fighting dragons, or journeys into a mysterious underworld. These aren't just copies. They're reflections of something deeply human, something we all understand, without being taught. So, maybe these forgotten myths aren't truly gone. Maybe they live on as a kind of inner compass, pointing us to what it means to be human. They don't tell us where to go on a physical journey, but they guide us through shared human truths, feelings, and struggles that connect us all, across time and space. It's like finding a piece of a very old story in your own heart. A story you didn't write, but one you somehow already belong to. And that's a map worth exploring, a path only the wind could trace. The guardian of the last spark. Have you ever held something so precious, so fragile, that you just knew you had to protect it? like a tiny, flickering flame in the dark, or a memory that means everything to you, even if it's a bit blurry. That deep urge to keep something vital alive, something that could easily disappear, lies at the heart of many ancient stories. Think about the forgotten myths, the ones that whisper to us from long ago. Sometimes, the full story, with all its characters and twists, gets lost over time. It's like an old song that only a few people still remember all the lyrics to. But here's the thing, even if the words fade, a tiny piece of the melody, a simple feeling, or a core idea often remains. That small, persistent ember, that's the last spark. Many old cultures had myths about guardians. These weren't always heroes with swords. Sometimes they were quiet figures who protected the world's most vital things, the flame of knowledge, the seeds of life, or the sacred stories. They understood that even a tiny spark, carefully tended, could light a whole new fire. This idea runs through human history, this deep-seated need to preserve what matters most, especially when it feels like it's slipping away. Here's an example. Think of a very old, faded photograph of someone you love. You might not remember the exact day it was taken, or what was said, but the feeling it gives you, a warmth, a connection, that feeling stays. That's the spark. It's not the perfect picture, but the enduring emotional truth. So, when we come across these forgotten myths, and a part of them feels strangely familiar, we're not just finding an old tale. We're connecting with one of those last sparks. It's a reminder that beneath all the differences across time and cultures, some human experiences, fears, and hopes are universal. And by recognizing them, by feeling that echo, we become a kind of guardian ourselves, helping that ancient spark continue to glow, softly, in our own hearts, across the ages. The tale of the thirsty mountain. Have you ever looked at a truly massive mountain, a silent giant that seems to hold the very sky? It stands so still, so ancient, but what if, deep within its stony heart, it felt a profound longing? Imagine, for a moment, that this mighty mountain wasn't just cold rock and endless earth. What if it could feel a deep, aching need, a kind of thirst? This is the heart of a forgotten myth, one we're calling the tale of the thirsty mountain. It's not about needing water, not in the way you drink from a glass. Instead, it's about a much deeper emptiness, a missing piece in its vast, ancient soul. Some old stories whisper of mountains yearning for things lost, maybe the constant flow of a river that changed its course, or the vibrant green of a forest that once grew thick on its slopes, but has since thinned. It's a longing for balance, for a harmony that has somehow slipped away. Ancient people often saw the world this way. To them, mountains weren't just big lumps of rock. They were alive, breathing, and even feeling beings. They believed everything in nature had a spirit, a kind of inner life. So, a thirsty mountain wasn't a crazy idea. It was a powerful way to understand the world's deep needs and imbalances. It taught them to respect the land, to listen to what nature seemed to crave, and to realize that if the mountain felt a need, something might be out of sync. Think about it like this. Sometimes, you might feel a thirst that isn't for water. Maybe you feel a deep longing to understand a complex math problem, or a strong desire to truly connect with someone new. You feel an emptiness until that need is met, right? Or how a quiet, old house might feel thirsty for care, needing fresh paint and fixing up, yearning for life to fill its rooms again. This mountain's thirst is like that, but on a grand scale, a quiet yearning for what completes it. So, what does this beautiful, forgotten myth tell us? It reminds us that even the biggest, most stoic things can hold hidden needs, quiet yearnings. And here's the thing, perhaps understanding the thirst of a mountain helps us see the quiet, often unspoken needs within ourselves and the world around us. It teaches us to look deeper, past what's obvious, and to feel the subtle pulses of life that connect us all. A promise made to the moon. Have you ever felt a connection to something so strong? It felt like an ancient agreement, not a promise you wrote down, but one that lives deep inside you. This myth explores a promise made to the moon. It's about a silent, powerful understanding between people and nature. It's a bond so deep, it feels like it was always there, echoing through time. For thousands of years, people looked up at the moon. They saw it change, from a sliver to full, then back again, always returning. This steady cycle made the moon a symbol of lasting things. So, when ancient communities felt a truly strong commitment to a family tradition, a sacred vow, or just a way of living that felt right. They sometimes imagined making that promise to the moon itself. It was their way of saying, "This will endure." Like the moon, think about something you truly care about. Maybe it's a special place you visit, or a skill you're working hard to learn. You don't always say out loud, "I promise to cherish this," or "I promise to practice," but you feel that commitment inside. You show up, you try your best, day after day. That steady, internal commitment, that silent agreement, is like a promise made to the moon. It's a quiet vow, built on trust and a deep sense of knowing. These myths remind us how deeply people connected with the world. They show us that some of the most important promises aren't spoken words at all. They are deep understandings that live in our hearts, guiding us. It's a feeling of belonging, a quiet promise that whispers through time, connecting us to everyone who looked up at that same moon. The girl who turned into a river. Have you ever felt a change so deep inside that it seemed to transform your very being? Maybe a huge sadness, or a moment of great bravery, that felt like it reshaped you entirely. There's a powerful myth, found in many cultures, about a girl who literally turns into a river. It sounds impossible, but here's the thing, these stories aren't just about magic. They're about understanding intense human experiences. Long ago, people saw the world differently. They didn't separate themselves from nature like we often do today. They believed that deep feelings, big events, or even powerful grief could change a person so much that they became part of the land itself. A girl's tears might become the endless flow of a river, her body becoming its banks. Her journey, now endless water, would carve a path through the world, shaping it even as it flowed. Think about it like this. When you feel incredibly sad, sometimes it feels like a wave, doesn't it? Or like a flood of emotion washing over you. You might feel like you're dissolving, or that nothing will ever be the same. That heavy feeling changes you, and that's a little like what these myths are getting at. That powerful feeling, though, may be painful, can carve a new path for you, just like water carves the land. So, the story of a girl turning into a river isn't just a sad tale of loss. It's a reflection on how powerful change can be. It suggests that even when we transform, when our lives take an unexpected turn, we don't disappear. We become something else, something new, perhaps even something enduring. Our experiences, especially the hardest ones, can become a flowing part of who we are, continuing to move forward, shaping the world around us in a quiet, steady way. When the ocean ran red, have you ever imagined something so impossible, so strange, that it still feels real in a quiet corner of your mind? What if the vast blue ocean, stretching to the horizon, suddenly changed? What if it ran red? This isn't just a scary thought. Across different cultures, deep in forgotten myths, we find tales of waters turning to blood, of oceans staining crimson. It's a powerful, unsettling image. These stories aren't meant to be facts in a history book. Instead, they tell us about deep human fears and big moments of change. Long ago, when people faced terrible floods, or long periods without rain, or even huge battles that changed their world forever, they tried to make sense of it all. They didn't have news channels or science labs to explain things, so they told stories that helped them understand powerful feelings like fear, loss, or anger, and the sheer unstoppable force of nature. A red ocean became a symbol for absolute disaster, for a world turned upside down. Think about a time you've seen something familiar change in a dramatic way. Maybe you've seen a clear stream turn muddy and brown after a heavy rain, showing all the dirt and upheaval it carried. Or perhaps a beautiful, calm sky suddenly turned dark purple and green right before a huge storm. That sudden, shocking visual shift tells you something big is happening. The myth of the red ocean is like that, but on the biggest stage imaginable. It speaks to a deep, shared human experience of feeling small against immense forces, of seeing the world transform in terrifying ways. So, these old myths remind us how fragile our world can feel. They show us that our anxieties about massive change, about chaos, are not new. They've been part of us for ages. And even when the ocean stays blue, the idea of it running red still whispers about the powerful feelings we carry, about the deep, strange ways we remember great transformations. The boy who found a dragon egg. Have you ever found something by accident that felt incredibly important? Imagine a story where a young boy is just walking, maybe in a forest, not looking for anything special, and then he finds it, an egg. But not just any egg. an egg shimmering with impossible heat, too big, too beautiful for any normal creature. A dragon egg. This idea of finding something so powerful, so filled with potential, is in so many old myths. It's not always a dragon egg. Sometimes it's a hidden spring, a lost book of spells, or a unique jewel. These objects represent a secret, a sleeping power, or a future waiting to be discovered. Ancient cultures use these stories to explain how greatness comes from surprising places, how big changes start small and hidden. What matters most might not be obvious at first glance. It's about recognizing a flicker of possibility. Think about it this way. Maybe you're just doodling in your notebook, not really trying, and then suddenly, you draw something amazing. You didn't think you were an artist, but that one drawing, that unexpected spark, felt like your own dragon egg. Or maybe you've seen someone quiet in class suddenly speak up with an idea so brilliant it changes how everyone thinks. That hidden voice, that unexpected insight, always there, waiting for the right moment. So, the myth of the boy who found a dragon egg isn't just about dragons. It's about how the most extraordinary things sometimes begin in quiet, unnoticed ways. It's a gentle reminder to look closely at the world around you, and even within yourself. Because sometimes, the deepest potentials, the most surprising paths for your life, are hidden, just waiting for someone to notice their quiet, growing power. Every big journey starts with a small, unbelievable find. The mystery of the silent city. Have you ever walked through an old, empty building and felt a strange quietness? Like the walls are holding secrets, but they won't speak. This feeling connects to many ancient myths about silent cities. These aren't just ruins we dig up. They are places once full of life, sound, and people, now completely still. Imagine a city where everyone suddenly vanished, leaving everything exactly as it was, but without a single soul. What happened? The myths don't always say, they just whisper about the quiet. For thousands of years, people have told stories about places that were vibrant, and then, for reasons unknown, simply faded away. Think of legends about Atlantis sinking beneath the waves, or hidden cities in jungles that explorers sometimes dream of finding. These aren't always about a sudden disaster. Sometimes, they're about a slow, quiet fading. It's about how entire ways of living, entire cultures, can become forgotten, like a song no one sings anymore. Here's the thing. Think about a playground you loved as a little kid. It was full of shouts and laughter, maybe even a little crying. But now, you're older. When you walk past it, it might be empty and silent. The swings hang still. The slides are quiet. It's the same place, but the life, the energy, the specific sounds of your childhood are gone. That silence holds all those memories, but it doesn't make a sound. So, the mystery of the silent city isn't just about a lost place. It's about the quiet echo of what used to be. It makes us think about what we build, what we cherish, and how easily even the loudest moments can turn into forgotten whispers. The silence isn't empty. It's full of unspoken stories, reminding us to listen closely to the present before it too becomes a silent memory. A cloak woven from night sky. Have you ever looked up at the night sky? Really looked away from city lights? It's huge, isn't it? Black, deep, and endless. What if that darkness wasn't just empty space, but felt like something real, something you could almost touch? For ancient people, before bright streetlights and big telescopes, the night was more than just when the sun went down. It was a powerful, living thing. They didn't have science to explain the twinkling stars, the strange shapes in the clouds, or the quiet whispers carried on the wind. So, they did what humans do best. They imagined the night as a vast heavy cloak draped over the world. This wasn't a scary idea, not always. It was a way to give the unknown a shape, a way to understand what was beyond their sight. Think of it like this. When you're in a completely dark room, and you hear a tiny creak, your mind might instantly imagine something bigger, something mysterious. You fill in the blanks with a story. Maybe it's a monster, maybe it's just the house settling. Your brain tries to make sense of the unknown. That's what humans did with the night sky. They wove stories into its dark fabric. They gave names to the hidden stars, explained the moon's journey, and created gods or spirits who lived in the shadows. These myths weren't just made-up tales. They were like a comforting blanket of understanding against the overwhelming darkness. They helped people feel a little less alone in the vast mystery. Here's the thing. These forgotten myths, These cloaks, woven from night sky, show us something deep about ourselves. Even today, with all our science, there are still things we don't know, things that feel vast and mysterious. We still look up at the stars and wonder, and that feeling of wonder, that natural human need to understand and find meaning in the unknown, connects us directly to those ancient people, living under their imagined cloak of night. It's a quiet reminder that some parts of being human never really change. The laughter of the hidden folk. Have you ever been walking somewhere quiet, maybe in the woods or your backyard at dusk, and heard a sound you couldn't quite place, like a soft whisper on the wind, or a tiny giggle from behind a tree? What if those sounds weren't just wind or your imagination? For a very long time, people all over the world have told stories about the hidden folk. These aren't always scary monsters. Often, they are small, ancient beings living just out of sight, deep in forests, under hills, or by flowing water. Think of the mischievous sprites, the wise gnomes, or the graceful elves from old tales. They are spirits of the land, creatures woven into nature itself. Here's the thing, these stories weren't just silly make-believe. For our ancestors, they were a way to understand their world. They felt the rustle in the leaves, the strange echoes, the sudden shifts in light. So, they imagined life and personality in these unseen forces. The laughter of the hidden folk became a symbol for nature's mystery, the parts we can feel but never fully grasp. It's like when you hear a particular song, and it just makes you feel something deep inside, even if you can't explain why. That feeling is real, even if you can't see the sound waves, and that's why it matters. These myths remind us to slow down. They ask us to notice the quiet magic around us. They teach us there's a secret life happening all the time, just beyond our usual hearing. It's about keeping curiosity alive, allowing ourselves to wonder what else is out there, beyond what we can easily see or explain. Maybe the sound of the wind isn't just wind, but an ancient story being told. It makes the world feel bigger, more alive, and a little more wonderful. The story of the unseen bridge. Have you ever felt a connection to something you couldn't quite see or explain? Like a pull, a whisper, a strange sense of knowing. Many old stories talk about an unseen bridge. It's not a bridge of wood or stone that crosses a river. Instead, it's an invisible path, a secret link connecting different things. Think about how ancient people imagined the world. They often believed that everything was tied together, not just people to people, but also our thoughts to the stars, or our feelings to the land. They felt there were hidden currents of meaning, like invisible rivers flowing beneath the surface of daily life. These currents connected dreams to reality, or the past to the future. The unseen bridge was a way to think about these deep, hidden connections. It was how they tried to understand why certain feelings or ideas seemed to echo across time, from one person to another. Here's an example we might understand. Imagine you're walking somewhere, maybe in your neighborhood, and then you smell something. Maybe it's a certain type of flower, or the way the rain smells on hot pavement. And just like that, you're not just standing there anymore. You're suddenly transported back to a memory from years ago. Maybe a summer day when you were little, or a moment with someone special. That smell, that simple scent, built an unseen bridge straight to your past. It connected your now with your then, completely without words or visible effort. So, this idea of an unseen bridge reminds us that the world holds more than what our eyes can see. It suggests that deep down, everything might be connected in ways we are only beginning to sense. It's a quiet thought, one that invites us to feel the subtle threads that weave through our lives. It hints that maybe, just maybe, we are all part of a bigger, more mysterious tapestry, linked by these invisible pathways of feeling and understanding. The quest for the lost light. Have you ever felt like something important was just out of reach? Maybe a clear answer to a tough problem, a forgotten memory, or even a feeling of hope that seems to have faded. This quiet longing for what's lost is at the heart of so many ancient myths. These stories often tell of heroes on journeys to find a lost light. It isn't always a glowing lamp. Sometimes it's lost knowledge, a forgotten truth, or a way to bring balance back to the world. Many old tales feature heroes trying to bring back spring, find power, or restore a dark kingdom. These aren't just fantasy adventures. They show us something very human, our constant search for clarity when things feel unclear. For a long time, people used these myths to understand their world. If crops failed, or loved ones were sick, they saw it as the light dimming. Their stories imagined that light could be found again. So, the quest for the lost light is really about the human spirit trying to overcome darkness, whether real trouble or confusion. Here's an example. Imagine you're working on a confusing school project. You've read the notes, but the main idea isn't clicking. You feel lost. That aha moment when it finally makes sense. That feeling of understanding, that's your own small lost light found. You were on a quest for clarity, and you found it. So, these old myths remind us that even when life feels uncertain, there's always a path. The quest for lost light is always happening inside us. It nudges us to keep looking for understanding, for peace, or for that quiet spark of hope. It's about believing a light can be found, even in shadows, if we just keep searching. A child born from a flower. Have you ever wondered about stories where life just appears? Not from parents, but from something unexpected, like a flower. It's a really old idea, this myth of a child born from a plant. It suggests that life, in its purest form, can simply bloom into existence. It's not about magic tricks, but about wonder. Think of it as life, finding an unusual path, bursting forth from nature itself. These stories often hint at a deep connection between humans and the natural world, as if we are all just different kinds of blossoms. Across many cultures, we find these tales. In some myths, heroes or special beings emerge from lotus flowers, or even bamboo. The ancient Egyptians had beliefs about gods linked to the lotus. In Norse myths, the first humans were said to have come from trees. This idea isn't just about how babies are made, it's about origins. It's asking, where do we come from? What is our true beginning? Philosophers might say these myths explore the idea of spontaneous creation, or how everything is connected in the great circle of life. It reminds us that beginnings can be mysterious and beautiful, not always what we expect. It challenges us to look beyond the obvious. Think about a seed that lies dormant in the soil all winter. It seems like nothing, just a tiny speck. But then, with a little water and sunshine, it bursts open, sending up a green shoot, then leaves, and finally, a flower. From that tiny, seemingly lifeless seed, something vibrant and complex emerges. It's like how a simple idea can grow in your mind, suddenly blossoming into a big project or a new understanding. The potential was always there, hidden, just waiting for the right conditions to unfurl. These myths remind us that life is always finding a way. It's a powerful force, full of surprises and hidden beauty. Maybe we, too, carry a bit of that blooming spirit within us. It suggests that sometimes the most profound beginnings are not loud or dramatic, but quiet, gentle, and rooted in the very fabric of the world around us. It teaches us to see the miracle in small things, and to feel connected to the quiet, powerful ways life unfolds. The drumbeat that awoke the world. Have you ever heard a story, or seen an image, and felt like you already knew it, deep down? Not from a book or a lesson, but from somewhere much older, like an echo in your bones. That feeling, that strange sense of familiarity, is a bit like the drumbeat that awoke the world. It's not a real drum. Instead, it's a quiet, ancient rhythm inside us, a hum from the start of human thought. Imagine our earliest ancestors, living in a world both beautiful and scary. They looked up at the same stars we do, felt the same chill of night, and wondered about death. These shared experiences, these universal feelings, started to form the first ideas. When they saw the sun rise each morning, it felt like a miracle, a return of light after darkness. This wasn't just a daily event, it was a deep awakening, a drumbeat of understanding. They began to tell stories about it, to give names to the sun and the moon, to explain why things happened. These were the first myths. Think about a catchy tune that sticks in your head, even if you only heard it once, or how a deep breath calms you, something your body just knows. This drumbeat is like that, a core truth, a basic human pattern of understanding, passed down not always through words, but through shared feeling and experience. For example, almost every culture has a story about a hero who goes on a journey, faces challenges, and comes back changed. That's a drumbeat. It's not because they all copied each other, but because facing fears and growing strong is a universal human journey. So, when you stumble upon an old myth, and it feels strangely familiar, remember that ancient drumbeat. It's a whisper from our shared past, a reminder that even though thousands of years separate us, we are still connected to those who first wondered. we carry their echoes, their first sparks of understanding, within us. And in that connection, there's a quiet comfort, a sense that we are all part of one continuous human story. The stone that cried tears. Can something as solid as a stone truly feel sorrow? Can it weep? It might sound strange to imagine a rock shedding tears, but this is a very old idea. Across different cultures, you find myths about weeping stones, or mountains that cry. These stories aren't about a rock suddenly growing eyes and sobbing. Instead, they tell us something deeper about intense human feelings. For ancient people, the world wasn't just a collection of objects. They believed that spirits lived in rivers, trees, and even rocks. So, if something truly terrible happened, a great tragedy, a deep loss, it was imagined that the very earth would respond. A stone might cry not with water, but with deep, unseen grief. It would stand as a silent witness, holding the memory of pain or a significant event. It's like the land itself was feeling the heartbreak, holding on to that moment forever. Think about a time when you felt really, really sad. Maybe it was a rainy, gray day. Did it feel, just for a moment, like the sky was crying with you, or like the wind was sighing, just like you were? Of course, the weather isn't actually sad, but our strong feelings can make us feel so connected to the world that everything around us seems to share in our emotions. That's similar to how these myths worked. The weeping stone became a powerful symbol. These stories remind us that grief, memory, and even history can leave an imprint everywhere, not just in our minds. They teach us to look at the world around us with a little more wonder and empathy. Even the quietest, most unmoving things might hold profound stories and feelings, if only we take the time to notice. The place where spirits danced. Have you ever stood in a place that just felt different? Maybe an old forest, or a quiet hill, or even a very old building. It's like the air hums with stories, right? For ancient people, some places weren't just dirt and trees. They were living spots where the human world and the spirit world felt thin, almost transparent. These were the places where spirits danced. Before bright city lights, people lived closer to nature. They watched the sun, felt the wind, heard the forest's whispers. In some spots, like where a powerful waterfall crashed, or ancient stones stood tall, or deep inside a cave, they sensed something more. They believed these were portals, gathering spots for ancestors or nature spirits. People went there for comfort, for answers, or to feel connected to something bigger. It was a quiet understanding. The world held secrets, and some places were keys to them. It's a bit like how a certain song can make you feel a memory so strongly, you're almost back in that moment. The song isn't the memory, but it connects you, makes it real again. These sacred places were like that for whole communities. They weren't just spots on a map. They were anchors for shared memories, for common dreams, for spiritual hope. People poured their beliefs and feelings into these spaces. They left offerings, whispered prayers, or simply sat in silence, feeling a profound presence. So, even today, when you walk into an old church, or stand before a majestic mountain, or visit a quiet family graveyard, that feeling you get, that sense of history, of deep calm, of something important, that's an echo of those ancient beliefs. It reminds us that places hold more than physical things. They hold feelings, memories, and the echoes of generations who felt, just like us, that some spots on earth are truly special. And in a way, the spirits still dance there, in our minds, connecting us across time. A journey to the end of the earth. Have you ever looked at a map and wondered what lies just beyond the edges? What if, long ago, people truly believed there was an actual end to the world? A place where the sky met the sea, or where the land just dropped off into nothing. Many ancient myths tell tales of such places. They talk about journeys to the very limits of what was known, to a boundary no one was meant to cross. Here's the thing. These ends of the earth weren't just spots on an old map. They were also ideas about the limits of human knowledge and bravery. Think about it. Before satellites and global maps, the world felt much bigger and more mysterious. People only knew what they could see or travel to. The unknown was vast and often scary. So, these myths about the end of the earth weren't just wild stories. They were how people made sense of their fear of the unknown. They explained why certain places were unreachable, or why adventurers stopped at a certain point. It was a way to put a fence around the scary parts of the world. This idea of an end can feel familiar even today. Imagine you're learning something totally new, like playing a complicated piece of music or trying to solve a really tough math problem. There's a moment when you hit a wall. You feel like you can't learn another note or understand another equation. It feels like you've reached the end of your ability. But then, you push a little harder. You practice one more time. You ask for help. And suddenly, that end wasn't a real stop at all. It was just a boundary you could move past. So, the end of the earth in these old myths isn't just about geography. It's a quiet reminder that our deepest fears often lie at the edge of what we understand. It's a whisper about the limits we put on ourselves, and that's why it matters. These forgotten myths invite us to wonder what personal ends of the earth we might be facing. Perhaps the greatest journey is learning to step beyond them. The animal that saved humanity. What if an animal, maybe one you've never even heard of, held a secret to saving humanity? It's not about a magical beast fighting monsters or a pet stopping a car crash. This idea goes much deeper. It speaks to something ancient, a forgotten wisdom woven into the very fabric of our earliest stories. In old myths from all over the world, animals weren't just background characters. They were teachers, they were guides. Sometimes they were even seen as gods themselves. People back then watched animals closely, with a quiet respect. They learned about courage from a lion. They saw patience in a spider spinning its delicate web. They understood loyalty from a pack of wolves working together. And that's why it matters. These ancient lessons weren't just about surviving in the wild. They were about how to be human, truly human. Think about the stories of the wolf, not the scary kind you see in fairy tales, but the wild, powerful, and deeply loyal kind. In some very old tales, like the ones from ancient Rome, a wolf actually cared for human children. It fed them, protected them, raised them as its own. This isn't just a cool story meant to entertain. It shows how people believed animals could give us something vital, a sense of belonging, a raw connection to the earth, even a tough, primal kind of love that helps you survive. It reminds us that even when things felt impossible, when we felt lost or alone, nature held answers. And animals showed us the way. Here's the thing. It's a bit like how your own pet might teach you things you didn't expect. Maybe your dog teaches you patience when you're trying to train it, or your cat shows you how to be comfortable just being quiet, curled up next to you. These aren't huge, dramatic lessons that save the whole world right away, but they change you, slowly. They make you a little bit more patient, a little more observant, a little kinder. The old myths believed animals could do this for whole groups of people, on a grander, more spiritual scale. So, when we talk about the animal that saved humanity, we're not really looking for one specific creature. We're looking at the countless ways animals in stories offered wisdom. They showed us how to adapt to a changing world, how to connect with each other, how to find strength in our most basic instincts. They saved us by reminding us who we truly are, deep down, a part of the natural world, full of wild wisdom. And that kind of saving, finding our true selves, might be the most important kind of all. The warning from the deep forest. Have you ever walked into a very old, quiet forest and felt like it was listening, or maybe even trying to tell you something? For a long, long time, people have told stories about the woods. These aren't just scary tales about monsters. They are echoes of ancient lessons, whispered from the rustling leaves and the shadow-dappled paths. They are warnings, not always about physical danger, but about choices we make and how we treat the world around us. Imagine our ancestors, living with vast forests stretching out for miles. These places were beautiful, sure, offering food and wood, but they were also mysterious, full of the unknown. Danger could hide behind any tree, a wild animal, a sudden storm, or getting completely lost on paths that all looked the same. So, people learned to be careful, to be humble, to listen closely to their surroundings. These hard-won lessons became myths, stories of forest spirits who punished greed, or trees that cried out when harmed, or paths that led travelers astray if they ignored the quiet signs. Here's what I found. These warnings weren't just about real dangers like getting lost. They were also about respecting the wild, about knowing your own limits, and about not being too proud. It's kind of like when you're working on a school project, and you ignore the small instructions because you think you know better. Soon, the small mistake turns into a big problem, and you can't easily fix it. Those forest myths are similar. They're like an old whisper saying, pay attention to the small things. Don't go too far from what you know, or you might not find your way back, or don't take more than you need, or the balance might shift. These ancient whispers still touch us, even today. They remind us that there are parts of life, like nature, or even our own feelings, that need our quiet attention and respect. Maybe it's a warning to slow down and notice the small signs, or to remember that some boundaries, even unseen ones, are there for a reason. The deep forest, even in a story, asks us to listen carefully, not just with our ears, but with our hearts, to the wisdom that has flowed through time. The cave of echoes and memories. Have you ever heard a story, maybe for the first time, but it felt strangely familiar, like you'd known it, or a part of it, forever? It's like stepping into a hidden cave, not of rock, but of echoes and old memories. This isn't a real place. It's a way to think about how some myths, even ancient ones from different cultures, can sound so much alike. It's almost as if humanity has a shared memory, where certain ideas and feelings live, waiting to be rediscovered. These aren't exact copies, but their core messages often echo each other. People, no matter where or when, have always wondered about the same big things. Where did we come from? What happens after we die? Why do we feel love or fear? These deep, shared questions led to similar stories. Carl Jung, a famous thinker, talked about the collective unconscious. This means there are certain patterns and symbols all humans understand, deep down, without being taught. It's a built-in understanding we share. Here's the thing. Think how many movies or books have a hero's journey. A character leaves home, faces challenges, and comes back changed. From ancient myths like Odysseus to modern stories like Harry Potter, this pattern just feels right. It's like déjà vu, that feeling you've lived a moment before. Our minds connect new experiences to familiar patterns. Myths across time and place connect because they tap into common human experiences growing up, facing fears, finding courage. So, when a myth feels familiar, it's not just coincidence, it's a quiet reminder. It tells us we're all part of a huge, ongoing story. Our hopes, fears, and questions, they're not new. They're echoes from the past, resonating through time, connecting us to people who lived thousands of years ago. It shows us how much we are alike, deep inside, even with our differences. And that's why it matters. These forgotten myths whisper truths about what it means to be human, truths that still hold meaning today. The tale of the star-crossed lovers. Have you ever thought about people who are just perfect for each other, but somehow they can't be together? Like the universe itself seems to be pulling them apart. This idea is at the heart of what we call star-crossed lovers. It's about two people who are deeply, truly in love, but outside forces, maybe fate, or huge challenges, or even their families keep them from having a happy ending together. For a long, long time, people looked up at the night sky and believed the stars held secrets about our lives. They thought our destinies, including who we would love and what would happen to us, were all written up there among the constellations. So, when a love story ended sadly, it felt like the stars themselves had crossed or worked against the lovers, marking their path with sorrow. It wasn't about bad luck. It was about a powerful, unavoidable destiny. Think about two powerful magnets. They naturally want to click together, right? They're drawn to each other with an invisible force. But what if there's always a piece of thick glass or a wall between them? No matter how close they get, they can feel each other. They want to connect, but they just can't quite make it happen. Or imagine you and your best friend want to spend every weekend together, but one of you has family visiting every time. Or you both have different sports practices that always conflict. It's not that you don't want to connect. It's just that life keeps putting things in the way. These tales of star-crossed love are often beautiful, but they carry a deep sadness. They remind us of how powerful love can be, strong enough to fight against the odds, even when it's doomed. And they make us wonder, is everything truly set in stone, written in the stars? Or are these stories simply a way to understand why, sometimes, despite our deepest desires, things just don't work out the way we hoped? They leave us with a quiet, lingering question about fate and the limits of love. The girl who outsmarted a god. Have you ever wondered if true power lies in strength, or something else entirely? Many ancient stories tell of mighty gods with incredible powers, but sometimes, in these old myths, a human, small and seemingly weak, finds a way to win. It's not with muscle, but with mind. This is about a girl, a human, who outsmarted a god with her wits. Think about it. People created these myths looking at the vast sky, at forces they couldn't control. They saw floods, droughts, huge storms, imagining gods ruled these things. But even with all that power, ancient storytellers still gave humans a special strength, the power to think, to plan, to be clever. They were asking, can our smarts be greater than fate, or even a god's will? These stories explore that question. It's a bit like when you're playing a strategy game, like chess, against someone much older or seemingly better. You might not have their experience, or their big, powerful pieces. But if you think several moves ahead, if you see patterns they don't, if you find a sneaky way to turn things around, you can still win. Your brain becomes your biggest advantage, not brute force. This myth isn't just a cool story about winning. It's a deep whisper from the past, reminding us what it truly means to be human. It suggests that even when faced with overwhelming challenges or things that feel impossible, our greatest tool is often our own mind. It's about resilience, creativity, and the quiet belief that wisdom can sometimes conquer even the grandest, most powerful forces. It's about finding strength, not in muscles, but in the quiet, bright spark of an idea. When the river flowed backwards, have you ever thought about how steady things are? The sun rises, then sets. A river always flows downhill. It just does. But what if, one day, it didn't? What if a river, deep and wide, suddenly started flowing back the way it came, pushing against its own current? This idea of a river flowing backwards is not really about water defying gravity. It's a deep, old symbol found in myths from all over the world. It speaks of a time when everything we knew, everything that felt certain, just flipped on its head. It's a picture of things going against their very nature. Ancient people watched nature closely. They saw huge floods that changed landscapes. They saw terrible droughts that dried up life. Sometimes, these events were so powerful, so unexpected, that they felt like the very order of the world was broken. These stories were ways to understand those frightening moments when life didn't follow its usual path. When chaos seemed to take over, they helped people make sense of things that felt impossible. Think about a time when you were absolutely sure about something, maybe a belief you held, or a way you saw a person. And then, something happened, a new piece of information, a sudden understanding, and it was like your entire view suddenly reversed. That feeling of everything you thought you knew turning inside out, that's what these myths are getting at. It's a shift, deep down, that changes your direction. So, when myths tell us the river flowed backwards, they're not just telling a strange tale. They're asking us to consider that even the most unchangeable things can shift. They remind us that life can surprise us, challenge us, and even force us to see the world from a completely new direction. And sometimes, in those moments of profound reversal, we learn the most important lessons about ourselves and the world around us. The gift of a single grain of sand. Have you ever really looked at a single grain of sand? Just one tiny speck, so small you can barely see it, sitting alone on your palm. What can something so small possibly hold? Here's the thing. In countless forgotten myths and ancient stories, the smallest beginnings often carry the greatest power, the deepest meaning. Imagine a myth where the entire universe began not with a bang, but with just a single drop of dew, or a tiny spark of light. Many ancient peoples believed truly massive things, like towering mountains or vast, endless oceans, grew from something impossibly small. This idea isn't just about how things start, it's about what even the tiniest piece can mean. Each grain of sand, in a way, carries the story of its mountain, its river, its ocean. It's traveled for ages, been shaped by winds and waves, holding eons of time and countless journeys within its tiny form. It is a quiet testament to endurance. Think about a time someone said just one kind word to you. Maybe you were having a rough day, feeling lost or unheard. That single word, that tiny gesture, might have shifted your whole mood. It didn't take a grand speech or a huge gift to make a difference. It was just one small, quiet moment, but its impact was vast. This is what the gift of a single grain of sand truly means. It's the hidden power in the seemingly insignificant, the quiet strength that rests in tiny things, even in our own lives. A single moment of courage, a single choice to try something new, can set off a ripple effect that changes everything. A single seed, small as a pebble, holds the potential for a giant tree that offers shade for generations. One quiet thought, carefully held and nurtured, can grow into a whole new understanding of the world, or even inspire a dream. So, what if we looked at our own lives, our own actions, with this same wonder? We might feel small in a big, busy world, but just like that grain of sand, we carry immense possibilities. Our quiet, individual self holds so much waiting to unfold. Every small step, every single kind thought, every tiny effort adds up to something truly meaningful. And that's why it matters. The tree that grew upside down. Have you ever wondered if the world we see is only half the story? What if the most powerful truths, our deepest feelings, aren't where we usually look? Imagine a tree, but not just any tree. This is the tree that grew upside down. In many ancient myths, from different lands and times, there's this idea, a tree whose roots don't reach into the earth. Instead, they stretch high into the heavens, into the source of light and wisdom. Its branches then spread downwards into our world, forming the reality we experience. It's a strange image, isn't it? Like our world is a reflection, a shadow from something older and grander above. This myth isn't about defying gravity. It's a deep, beautiful way to talk about where meaning truly comes from. Our everyday lives, our actions, our words, these are like the tree's branches. They are what people see. But where do they get their life, their energy? The myth suggests their true source, their roots, are not in daily problems, but in something higher, unseen, and pure. It's a bit like our own feelings. We might feel a rush of anger or a wave of sadness. We just feel it, right? But if you pause and look, those strong feelings don't just appear from nowhere. They have roots. These roots might reach deep into a past memory, a hidden fear, or a quiet hope you didn't even know was there. What we see on the surface, our mood, our reaction, is just the branch. The real nourishment, the true origin, is often in a place we can't easily see, a place within us that reaches for something bigger. So, this forgotten myth quietly asks us to look beyond the obvious. It reminds us that what's truly essential might not be right in front of us. It gently nudges us to consider that the deepest wellsprings of courage, kindness, and understanding might not be found by looking down into everyday life. Instead, we can sense something higher, something within us reaching for the sky. It's a call to find our roots in a deeper, more hopeful place. The shadow people of the dawn. Have you ever felt like someone was nearby, just out of sight? Maybe in that soft moment right after you wake up, when your room is still dim and quiet. It's a feeling that flickers, like a whisper you almost heard. This feeling connects us to a really old idea, the shadow people of the dawn. These aren't spooky monsters. Instead, think of them as an ancient myth. Imagine humans waking up thousands of years ago. The world was much darker at night. As dawn light touched the land, shadows stretched long, dancing and changing shape. Maybe these shadows felt like more than just light and dark. Perhaps they were silent watchers, or beings living between worlds. They live in that in-between time, when night hasn't fully left, and day hasn't fully arrived. Many cultures have stories like this. Indigenous peoples saw spirits in shifting forest light. Ancient Greeks spoke of gods moving between worlds. These shadow people weren't always bad. Often, they were just reminders that not everything can be seen clearly. They represented the unknown, things we sense but can't quite grasp. Here's the thing. Think about drawing. If you only use bright colors, your picture might look flat. But add shadows, and it suddenly feels deeper. Right? You can't always say why, but shadows add mystery. Our minds, even today, try to fill in gaps when things aren't clear. We see patterns, we create stories. It's how our brains work. So, the next time the sun just starts to peek over the horizon, notice those long, soft shadows. Maybe they're not just empty spaces. Maybe they're a gentle reminder that the world holds mysteries we don't need to be afraid of. They just are. They hint at a quiet wisdom, showing us that even in the brightest light, there's always a little bit of beautiful, unknowable shadow. It's like the world is gently breathing its secrets, just for you to feel. A voice from the ancient lake. Have you ever felt a strange pull towards something you can't quite explain? Like a memory that isn't truly yours, but feels incredibly real inside you. This feeling, this quiet echo, is what we call a voice from the ancient lake. It's about how forgotten myths and very old stories can bubble up inside us. They aren't in our history books, but they live in our shared human experience. It's like a whisper from deep water, telling us things we somehow already know. Think about it. People have always looked at the stars and wondered. They've always feared the dark or dreamed of brave heroes. No matter where or when, these big feelings and questions are much the same. Old myths aren't just silly tales. They are ways people try to understand these very human experiences. They are like deep currents connecting us across time, showing us we're not so different from those who lived thousands of years ago. We share common hopes and fears. Here's an example. It's like when you hear a new song, but it instantly feels familiar, almost nostalgic. Maybe it's the melody, or how the chords move. It reminds you of something, even if you can't quite name it. That's a bit like how ancient myths work. A story about a hero going on a journey to face a monster might not be one you've read before, but the idea of overcoming a huge challenge, or finding courage when you're scared, clicks right away. You get it, because you've felt those emotions. You've faced your own monsters in daily life, even if they're just tough tests or difficult conversations. So, when a forgotten myth feels oddly familiar, it's not magic. It's a quiet reminder that people before us felt similar things. It's a connection to our human past, whispering that we are all part of one big, ongoing story. And that's why it matters. It makes us feel less alone in our own journeys. The Weaver of Destinies, the Weaver of Destinies. Have you ever wondered if your life is like a story already written? Or if every choice you make just follows a path laid out for you? This question has been asked for thousands of years, and many myths try to answer it. Across cultures, there's a recurring idea, a weaver of destinies. Imagine an ancient figure, or a group, sitting at a huge loom. Instead of wool, they use the very threads of life. Each thread represents a person, a moment, a choice. They weave these threads together, creating the intricate tapestry of what happens. It's like they decide where your thread goes, what colors it touches, and how long it stretches. In ancient Greece, these were the Moirai, three sisters who spun, measured, and cut life's thread. In Norse myths, they were the Norns, figures who shaped fate. So many stories, but the same deep question remains. Is our future truly predetermined? Are we just actors in a play we didn't write? Here's the thing. Think about a simple choice you made today. Maybe you took a different route to school, or said hello to someone new. Because of that small choice, something unexpected happened. You met a new friend, or saw something interesting. It feels like your own decision, right? But what if that small choice was just a knot in a larger, unseen pattern? What if your thread crossed another exactly where it was meant to? This idea of a weaver of destinies isn't about being powerless. Instead, it invites us to ponder life's beautiful mystery. It makes us think about how interconnected everything is. Perhaps our lives are both a unique thread we choose to color, and also part of a much larger, beautiful design. We might not control every strand, but our own thread still adds to the richness of the whole. And that's why it matters. Understanding this balance between fate and choice can help us appreciate every moment. The boy who walked through walls. Have you ever felt truly stuck? Like there's a wall you just can't get past? Maybe it's a tough problem, a big fear, or just a feeling that something is impossible. But what if some walls aren't as solid as they seem? Across time, in quiet whispers and ancient tales, people have told stories of figures who could pass through what we see as absolute barriers. Not a magician's trick, but a deeper kind of freedom. There's often a character, perhaps, a young boy, who simply walks through a stone wall or a locked door. This isn't about superpowers. It's about what we believe. Long ago, some wise people thought our minds were so powerful, they could change what was real. They imagined what felt solid might be like a dream if our perception shifted. But here's the thing. Think about a time you were nervous about giving a presentation. Your mind put up a huge wall of fear. You felt stiff, your voice quiet. Then, you took a deep breath, remembered your friends were listening. Suddenly, that wall of fear started to thin. You didn't literally walk through a physical wall. You walked through a mental one. That big barrier became manageable. It's like how scientists tell us even something solid, like your desk, is mostly empty space. At a tiny level, everything is vibrating energy. We feel it as solid because of how our senses work. So, these stories aren't just old myths. They are poetic ways of asking us to think differently. They whisper that some limits we face might be more about our own thoughts than actual boundaries. Maybe the real wall is inside our own minds, waiting for us to see it differently. Rethinking this can help you discover what's possible for you. The time when animals spoke clearly. Have you ever looked at your pet, or a bird in the garden, and wondered what they might say if they could speak our words. Imagine a time, long ago, when people actually believed animals did speak clearly, like us, not just barks and meows, but full sentences, sharing wisdom and stories. This idea runs deep in countless ancient myths and folk tales from all over the world. For many cultures, animals weren't just creatures. They were teachers, messengers, or even family. People in these older times didn't see animals as separate from humans. Instead, they saw a connection, a shared language of the soul. They believed animals had a deep understanding of the world, a wisdom humans had perhaps forgotten. So, here's the thing. These stories weren't just make-believe. They helped people understand their place in the world, showing how everything was connected. Think about it like this. When your dog whines at the door, you know it means they need to go out. Or when a cat rubs against your leg, you understand it wants attention. We're already interpreting their language, even if it's not words. Many myths suggest that once, people were just better at listening, better at truly understanding those natural signals. What if we lost this ability to understand because we stopped listening closely? What if the animals never stopped speaking, but we just stopped hearing them? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Maybe if we paid more attention, if we quieted our own busy thoughts, we might just start to hear some of that ancient wisdom again, in the rustle of leaves or the call of a bird. It's a quiet thought, but a powerful one. The secret of the whispering grass. Have you ever walked through a field of tall grass on a breezy day and felt like it was whispering something? It's a quiet sound, a soft rustle, but sometimes it feels like it holds a secret, a memory you almost know. That feeling is very old. It's a feeling that connects us to myths from long ago. Myths that feel strangely familiar, even if we've never heard them before. For many ancient people, the world around them wasn't just dirt and trees. They believed everything had a spirit, a memory, a story to tell. They listened to the wind in the leaves, the flow of the river, and yes, the whispering of the grass. They thought these sounds carried echoes of the past, like old songs hummed. Through time, it wasn't just imagination, it was how they understood their place in the world. They felt deeply connected to the land, seeing it as a living, breathing being that remembered everything. Don't think about visiting a very old house, maybe one that's been in your family for generations. Even if it's empty, you might feel a certain mood in the air. You might sense the people who lived there long ago, laughing in the kitchen or reading by the fire. The walls don't speak, but they hold echoes of life. Or maybe you've heard a song you can't quite place, but it makes you feel something strong, a deep sense of longing or joy, almost like a forgotten memory bubbling up. This is a little like what the whispering grass can offer. It's a reminder that some knowledge, some feelings, aren't just in books or in our brains. They are woven into the very fabric of the world, into the earth beneath our feet, and they are woven into us. It suggests that deep down, we might carry fragments of these old stories, not as facts, but as a quiet sense of knowing, a feeling of connection to something very ancient. So, when you hear the grass whisper next time, maybe pause and listen. It's a gentle invitation to remember that we are part of a continuous, living story. And perhaps, it's also a soft promise that even the oldest, most forgotten myths are still here, just waiting to be felt again. The giant's sleeping heart. Have you ever felt it? A deep hum beneath your feet, a quiet strength in the world that feels ancient and still. Some old stories talk about sleeping giants, not just giant people, but huge forces. Imagine mountains being a giant's back, a valley its hand, the very land itself, a living thing, resting. This myth, the giant's sleeping heart, isn't about a monster taking a nap. It's about a deep, hidden power, a force that shaped the world, and now it's just waiting, not gone, not dead, but in a slumber. It breathes slowly. Lots of cultures around the world have tales like this. Think of King Arthur, who legends say isn't truly gone, but sleeping, deep beneath a hill, ready to wake when his people need him most. Or ancient gods who once walked the earth, now quiet, watching, their power coiled and still. It's a way people made sense of the world, feeling the vast, slow changes of the earth, and the long waits between big events. Here's the thing. You know how a tiny seed looks so small and still? It seems like nothing, right? But inside that seed is the entire blueprint for a massive tree. It's a tiny, sleeping giant. All the potential is there, just waiting for the right moment, the right warmth and water, to burst forth with life. It's like that quiet strength you have inside you, the one that doesn't always show. Maybe you're not loud all the time, but deep down there's so much power, so many ideas, just waiting for the right time to show themselves. And that's why this myth matters. It reminds us that truly great things, truly strong things, don't always make a lot of noise. They can be calm, hidden, patient. It tells us that even when things seem still, there can be immense energy just beneath the surface. It makes you think about all the quiet power around us, in the earth, in the sky, and even within us, waiting for its moment to awaken. A map to the land of lost stories. Do you ever get that feeling? Like you've heard a story before, even if you know you haven't. Maybe it's a character in a movie, or a moment in a book, and something deep inside you just knows it. It's a strange whisper from long ago. Here's the thing. Our world is full of stories that have been told and retold, but sometimes they change so much we don't recognize them. They are like ancient echoes, hidden in plain sight. These are what we call lost stories, not gone forever, but sleeping. They exist in the quiet corners of our minds, waiting to be remembered. Imagine people who lived thousands of years ago. They looked at the sun rising and setting, or saw storms gather in the sky. They wondered why. They didn't have science classes or textbooks, so they told stories. These myths weren't just made-up tales. They were how humans explained everything. The big feelings, the scary events, the beautiful things. They tried to figure out why we love, why we fear, why we are here. And these early attempts at understanding, these first stories, shaped the ones that came later. Think about a spiral. You see it in a seashell. You see it in the way water goes down a drain. You see it in the arms of a galaxy, stretching out into space. It's a pattern that shows up everywhere, in all sorts of different things. Even though a seashell is very different from a galaxy, they share this common shape. Lost stories work a bit like that spiral. Different cultures, different times, different places, they tell different stories. But sometimes, if you look closely, you see the same basic patterns, the same core ideas or feelings, showing up again and again. It's like a shared human memory. So this journey isn't just about old tales. It's about finding a map to something within ourselves. These forgotten myths don't just teach us about the past. They show us how deeply connected we are to everyone who has ever lived. They gently remind us that even though times change, the human heart, its wonder, its fear, its love, those things stay strangely, beautifully the same. It's a quiet sense of belonging, like coming home to a story you never knew you missed. The Bridge of Tears and Courage. What if courage wasn't just about being brave, but about crossing a very specific kind of bridge? The Bridge of Tears and Courage isn't a place on a map. It's a journey deep inside. It's about those tough moments when your heart aches, or fear tightens your chest. But it's also about finding the strength to keep moving, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. It's the path we take from deep sadness or fear to a place of inner strength. Many ancient stories, from myths around the world, speak of heroes who face a huge, personal test. This isn't always a monster they fight. Often, it's a moment of great loss, sorrow, or fear they must push through. Think of a character who has lost everything, yet finds a way to stand up again. Their tears, in a way, help clear the path forward. This idea isn't tied to just one old tale, but it weaves through many, showing us that real growth often comes right after a tough struggle. Have you ever felt super nervous before giving a presentation in class, or trying out for a school play? Your stomach might have felt weird, and your mind might have raced with what-ifs. That feeling of worry, or maybe even a tear of frustration if you messed up. That's the tears part. But when you take a deep breath, and do it anyway, stepping forward even when you're scared, that's you walking your own bridge of courage. You move through that discomfort to reach the other side. So, the Bridge of Tears and Courage isn't just some forgotten myth. It's a very real part of what it means to be human. We all find ourselves on this bridge at different times in our lives. And here's the thing, it's okay to feel those tears, whether they're of sadness, anger, or fear. They are not signs that you are weak. Instead, they are part of your journey. They water the seeds of your strength, helping you build the courage you need to step onto the other side, stronger and more truly yourself than before. The king who gave up his crown. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have everything? A crown, a kingdom, people listening to your every word, and then to choose to walk away from it all? It seems like a strange choice, doesn't it? But many old myths, from across the world, tell of powerful figures, even kings, who did exactly this. They chose to let go. Here's the thing. These stories aren't just about someone giving up something big. They're about what real power truly means. Imagine a prince, like Siddhartha, who later became the Buddha. He grew up surrounded by luxury, protected from anything bad. But he saw suffering in the world, and realized all the riches and power couldn't give him the answers he truly needed. It wasn't about being tired of wealth. It was about seeking something profound beyond it. So, he made the difficult, profound choice. He left his palace, his family, his comfortable life. He gave up a kingdom to search for a deeper truth, a different kind of peace for all. This choice isn't about being weak. Instead, it's about finding a deeper strength. It's like when you're working on a group project, and you feel the need to control every single step, every idea, but then you realize that letting go, trusting your friends, and allowing others to lead sometimes, actually makes the project better. You let go of the need for control, and in doing so, you gain a different kind of strength, the freedom from that burden, and the ability to work together more smoothly. The king who gave up his crown reminds us that real strength might not be about holding on to power, but knowing when to release it. It's about a quiet determination to follow your own heart, to choose inner peace and your own path, even when it's not what everyone else expects. It's a kind of wisdom, the kind that whispers that true freedom isn't found in what you gather, but in what you are brave enough to let go of. And that's a powerful thought to carry with you. The guardian of the golden apples. Have you ever thought about something so precious, so rare, that it needs a special protector? Like a secret you wouldn't tell anyone, or a unique talent you work hard to keep sharp. In many old stories, across different cultures, we find tales of guardians. They watch over things that are deeply valuable, sometimes even magical. One such story is about the golden apples. Not just any apples, but apples that promised eternal youth or incredible wisdom. In ancient Greek myths, these apples grew in a hidden garden, often said to be at the very edge of the world. They were guarded by the Hesperides nymphs, who were daughters of the evening, and a fearsome, 100-headed dragon named Ladon. Ladon never slept. It wrapped its many coils around the apple tree, its eyes always open, always watchful. This wasn't just about protecting fruit. It was about guarding a core secret of life itself, the key to immortality or profound knowledge. Think about it like this. Your brain holds countless ideas, memories, and skills. When you learn something new, say a difficult math concept or a complex chord on a guitar, you are, in a way, creating something precious inside yourself. You guard that knowledge. You practice it so you don't forget. That concentration, that effort to remember and master, is your personal guardian, protecting that valuable skill. It's not a dragon, but it's equally fierce in its dedication. So, these myths of guardians, like Ladon and the golden apples, show us something important. They remind us that the most valuable things in life, whether it's a mythical treasure or our own knowledge, often need protection. And maybe, just maybe, the real treasure isn't just the thing being guarded, but the act of protecting it, and what that journey teaches us about ourselves. It makes us think about what we truly value and how we keep it safe. A shield made of starlight. Have you ever felt like you needed a shield, not one you could hold, like something to guard your spirit, your thoughts, or your feelings when the world feels too loud or harsh? Well, imagine a shield made not of heavy metal, but of starlight. Here's the thing. Many ancient myths and philosophies talk about an inner strength, a kind of light inside us that can protect us. It's not magic, but a way of seeing. Think of old stories where heroes find courage, not from a big sword, but from their unshakable belief, or their connection to something bigger than themselves. This idea pops up across cultures that your truest defense is often what you carry inside. It's about building a fortress of your own spirit. So, how does this shield of starlight work in your daily life? Maybe you're facing a really tough project at school, and you start to feel overwhelmed, like you're not good enough. That inner starlight is the quiet voice that reminds you of other challenges you've overcome. It's the belief that you can try your best, even if you don't get everything perfect. It's about knowing your worth. Even when someone says something unkind, it helps you decide what truly matters and what you can just let pass by. This isn't about being fearless or never feeling sad. It's about having a deep sense of who you are, a core of calm and strength that helps you navigate the ups and downs. That starlight shield protects your hope, your kindness, and your inner peace. It's always there, shimmering, ready to remind you of your own quiet power. And that's why it matters. This forgotten myth reminds us that the strongest protection isn't found outside, but shines brightly from within you. The boy who heard the earth breathe. Have you ever stopped to really listen, not just with your ears, but with your whole self? Like when you're very still in a quiet place, and you feel a faint hum, a gentle pulse that seems to come from everything around you. That's what this forgotten myth makes us wonder about. The boy who heard the earth breathe. It's not about a sound you can measure. It's about a feeling, a deep awareness that the earth isn't just rock and dirt. Many ancient cultures, like the old stories from Native American tribes or the myths from ancient Greece, often saw our planet as a living, breathing being. They called her Mother Earth, or Gaia. They believed she had a spirit, a kind of heartbeat we could sense if we were truly connected. For them, listening to the earth breathe meant understanding her rhythms, respecting her life, and knowing we are a part of her, not separate from her. Think about a time you held a purring cat. You don't just hear the purr with your ears, do you? You feel it vibrate through your hand, a deep, rumbling warmth that tells you the cat is content, alive, fully present. It's a feeling that goes beyond just sound. That's a little like hearing the earth breathe. It's sensing the quiet, constant energy that moves through everything, the growing trees, the flowing water, the stillness of mountains. So, what if we tried to listen like that boy? What if we paused, closed our eyes, and just felt the ground beneath our feet, the air on our skin? Maybe we would find a calmness there, a quiet whisper that reminds us we are all connected, and that, in a world often full of noise, there is immense wisdom in learning to feel the silent, steady breath of life all around us. It might just make us feel a little less alone, and a lot more at home. The tale of the sky painter. Have you ever just stopped, looked up, and truly watched the sky? Not just glanced, but really watched it. When the sunset blazes orange and purple, or when the night is a deep velvet scattered with diamonds. For a moment, it feels almost too perfect to be random. Long, long ago, people felt this wonder too. They didn't have satellites or telescopes, so they made up stories. One of these forgotten stories, found in whispers across different cultures, is about the sky painter. This isn't about a god who created the sky, but a gentle, unseen artist who paints it every day and night. Imagine a quiet being with huge, soft brushes, dipping them into colors we can barely dream of. Each sunrise is a fresh wash of gold, each cloud a dab of white, each storm a swirling gray dot. It's a simple idea, right? But here's the thing. This myth wasn't just a pretty story. It was humanity's way of understanding the beautiful, often overwhelming world around them. When something was too grand, too mysterious, our ancestors gave it a story. They wanted to feel a connection, to find a reason. Think about how you might arrange your clothes in your closet by color, or carefully pick out the perfect filter for a picture you post online. You're trying to make something look beautiful, right? You're making choices, adding your own touch. In a way, you're a small painter of your own world, making things beautiful. The sky painter myth is like that, but on a huge scale. This myth, even with our science today, still holds a deep truth. It tells us about our human heart. It shows how much we want to find beauty and meaning in everything. It reminds us that even when we don't understand something completely, our imagination can fill that space with wonder. The sky painter might not be real, but the human desire to see art and feel awe definitely is. And that's a beautiful thing to remember. The door that opened to nowhere. Have you ever felt like you were looking for something, really searching, but knew deep down it might not even exist? Or maybe you found a path, a sort of door, that promised a lot but actually led to nothing at all. This feeling, this strange pull towards an empty space, is at the heart of many forgotten myths. These stories talk about doors that opened to nowhere. It's not about a literal door you can touch. Instead, it's more like an idea, a question you ask, or a feeling you have, that seems to lead to no clear answer or destination. For a long time, people told tales of gates that led to an endless void, or hidden paths that vanished into thin air. They created these myths perhaps as a way to understand the great unknown. Sometimes, these mythical doors were said to be made by magic gone wrong. Other times, they were seen as tricky traps, meant to mislead or capture travelers. And sometimes, They were just there, a quiet reminder that not everything has a neat ending or a clear destination in life. Think about it like this. You might be trying to solve a tough riddle in a video game you love. You explore every corner, push every button, but one door just won't open no matter what. Or, it does open, but there's nothing behind it, just a blank wall or a dark, empty space. That's a bit like these mythical doors. It makes you wonder why it's there, what its purpose is, or if it ever truly had one. In old myths, these nowhere places often made people think about the mysteries of their world, or even the parts of themselves they couldn't quite understand. So, what do we do when we find a door that seems to open to nowhere? Maybe we learn to accept that some mysteries simply don't have answers. Perhaps we learn that the most important thing is not always finding the right door. Instead, it's understanding why we were looking for one in the first place. It reminds us that sometimes the journey itself, with all its surprising stops and quiet dead ends, is what truly matters. And it's okay if some paths just lead back to where you started, or teach you that certain doors are better left closed, holding their own kind of wisdom. The land where nobody aged. Have you ever wished you could just press pause on time, stay exactly the age you are, forever? What if there was a secret place, hidden away, where nobody ever got older? No new wrinkles, no gray hairs, no slowing down, just endless youth. This isn't just a daydream. It's a myth found in stories from all over the world, whispered for thousands of years. The ancient Irish, for instance, told tales of Tir Nanog, the land of youth, where heroes sailed and found eternal springtime. In Chinese legends, there were islands of the immortals, where magical beings lived forever, untouched by sickness or age. People dreamed of these places because they wished to escape the hardest parts of life, getting sick, growing old, and saying goodbye. They wanted more time, always more time, to live and experience everything. Think about that amazing summer day you wished would never end. The sun was perfect, your friends were laughing, and every moment felt right. Now imagine if that feeling, that perfect moment, could just stretch on forever. No alarm clocks, no homework, just pure, endless summer. That's a bit like the dream behind these myths, an eternity of the good parts, without any of the changes that come with time. But here's the thing about staying the same. You wouldn't learn new lessons, you wouldn't see the world change, or feel yourself become stronger, smarter, or kinder through new experiences. Maybe the true wonder isn't in stopping time, but in embracing every part of it. These myths gently remind us that while eternal youth sounds tempting, perhaps the deepest beauty lies in the journey itself, in growing, adapting, and finding meaning in each passing season of our lives, because nothing lasts forever. The serpent who guarded the spring. Have you ever thought about how precious water is? Not just for drinking, but for everything our world needs to thrive. For ancient people, a fresh, flowing spring in a dry land could mean life itself. Imagine finding a bubbling spring after a long journey. It would feel like a miracle, but also a source so vital that it needed protecting. And that's where many old myths often step in. Across different cultures, you find stories of a great serpent, or sometimes a dragon, guarding the purest springs and the deepest, most sacred wells. This isn't just about a scary monster. Think about it for a moment. A serpent, with its long, winding body, might look like a river itself. It sheds its skin, seeming to be reborn, which ties to water, bringing new life and renewal. So, this guardian serpent wasn't always meant to be evil. Sometimes, it was a test. To get to the life-giving water, you often had to face the guardian. This usually meant proving you were worthy, that you truly understood the deep value of what you sought. It was about showing true respect for the source, for the precious gift. Here's the thing. We all have our own springs that need guarding, don't we? Maybe it's a special talent you're trying to develop, or a quiet, safe space where you think your clearest thoughts. It could be like learning a new skill, say, playing a musical instrument really well. It takes consistent effort to protect that practice time from distractions. You have to be patient, careful, and persistent. The serpent, in this case, isn't a literal scary creature. It's the challenge, the focus required, the understanding that comes with putting in hard work. So, when we hear about the serpent guarding the spring, it's not just an old story about a strange creature. It's a quiet reflection of how people throughout history understood things that were truly valuable. It makes us think that true gifts often come with a challenge. and that protecting what's precious requires wisdom, care, and deep respect. It helps us pause and think about what we value most and how we gently care for those things, whether big or small, that truly sustain our lives. A promise written in the stars. Have you ever looked up at the night sky, truly looked into the endless, sparkling depth? Did you ever feel a quiet wonder, a whisper that maybe everything here is connected to that vast, silent beauty above? For centuries, people have stared at those distant pinpricks of light, wondering if our lives, our destinies, are somehow mapped out among them. This idea isn't about fortune-telling or daily horoscopes. It's a much deeper, more ancient human feeling. Imagine ancient cultures, like the Egyptians or the Maya. They spent lifetimes studying the stars. They weren't just charting space, they were charting time, seasons, and the rhythm of their stories. They believed the stars held a cosmic agreement, a silent promise. Events on Earth, they thought, mirrored movements in the heavens. A ruler's birth, a big battle, the right time to plant crops, all felt connected to that grand, slow dance. Above. It's like when you make a deep promise to a friend, or feel an unshakable sense that something important is just going to happen. You know it's true, almost like it was always meant to be. That feeling, that strong certainty, is a tiny echo of what ancient people felt when they looked at the stars. They saw patterns, not just random dots, but a grand silent tapestry where everything had its place, an oath made before time began. It offered comfort and meaning. Even today, we feel that pull. When something incredible happens, something that feels so perfect, we might say, it was written in the stars. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? That maybe there's a gentle, quiet purpose to things. That some moments are not just accidents, but part of a bigger, beautiful promise, whispered from the ancient, glittering dark. It makes the universe feel less lonely, more like a place that understands, holding us in its silent, sparkling embrace. The girl who befriended a storm. Have you ever felt like a huge storm was brewing inside you, or maybe all around you? That feeling when things are just too much, too loud, too chaotic. There's this old idea in forgotten myths about the girl who befriended a storm. It's not about stopping the wind or commanding lightning. Instead, she didn't run from nature's wild parts. She found a way to understand it, to move with its power, rather than fighting. It's about finding quiet in the middle of chaos. Ancient cultures saw storms not just as destructive, but powerful, even sacred. They prayed to rain or wind spirits. They knew they couldn't control weather, but learned to live with it, adapt. This myth suggests true strength isn't always fighting. Sometimes, it's deep understanding and a strange acceptance. It's about finding your place, even when the world feels rough. So, how does this relate to you? Think about a time you felt really stressed, maybe a big test or a friend problem. That feeling can feel like a storm, right? Heart races, thoughts swirl. But here's the thing, instead of panicking, what if you took a breath and let those feelings be? You acknowledge them. You don't ignore the storm. You don't let it knock you down. You learn its patterns, finding your calm, just like a boat rides big waves, understanding the ocean. The myth of befriending a storm isn't about wishing away life's hard parts. It's learning to stand tall within them. It suggests that even the scariest things can hold lessons, and peace isn't just found when calm. Sometimes, the truest peace comes from inside you, from knowing you can face whatever comes, not by fighting, but by understanding and quietly accepting it. The city beneath the waves. Have you ever looked at a calm ocean and felt a strange pull? Like there's something vast and secret hiding underneath? What if, beneath those rolling waves, an entire city lay sleeping, its streets and buildings covered in sand and kelp? The idea of a city swallowed by the sea isn't just about Atlantis, that famous lost island. Many cultures, all over the world, tell stories of beautiful places that simply vanished below the surface. These myths feel strangely familiar, don't they? It's like we almost remember them, even if we've never heard the specific tale before. Maybe it's because these stories speak to something deep inside us. They touch on our quiet worries about losing things we cherish, or the incredible, unstoppable power of nature. They make us think about how quickly things can change, and how what's gone might still exist, just out of sight. Here's the thing, this isn't just about old buildings. Think of an old dream you had as a little kid. You might not remember all the details, but sometimes, a feeling or a picture from that dream will pop into your head, clear as day. It's not gone forever. It's just buried deep, waiting to resurface. The idea of a sunken city is a bit like that forgotten dream. It reminds us that memory, and even history, can be hidden. It can be just out of reach, yet still shape how we feel about the world. So, these myths aren't just tall tales about stone and water. They are quiet echoes of our own forgotten memories, our buried feelings. They remind us that even what is hidden can still touch us, still hold a gentle, important truth. The echo of the first song. Have you ever heard a new song, but somehow, deep down, it felt like you'd known the melody forever? Like it was an echo from a very old memory, a tune whispered through time. It's a strange and quiet feeling, isn't it? This feeling is a lot like how some forgotten myths can feel strangely familiar to us today, even though these stories come from ancient times, from places far away that seem totally different. Their core messages still resonate with something inside us. It's like they're telling us something we already know, deep in our bones. This idea is about the shared human experience that connects us all. Imagine people long, long ago, living in different parts of the world. They didn't have the internet, or books, or even simple ways to travel easily between lands. Yet, they all looked up at the same moon and stars, wondering what was beyond. They all faced big challenges like storms, hunger, or losing someone they loved. And they all knew the joy of new life, or a successful harvest. Because they shared these fundamental experiences, they often came up with very similar ways to explain the world around them, to make sense of life and death, good and evil. It's as if different groups of people, without ever talking to each other, composed similar songs because they were all singing from the same human heart. Think about a simple, comforting lullaby. The specific words or language might change from country to country, or from one generation to the next. But the soft, gentle melody, the rhythm of a parent trying to soothe their child, the universal feeling of comfort and safety, that core feeling stays the same. It's the echo of that very first, universal lullaby, sung by humans since the beginning of time. So when we encounter these forgotten myths, we're not just reading old tales from dusty books. We're actually hearing profound echoes of our own oldest feelings, our deepest hopes, and our most persistent questions about life. It's a quiet whisper from the distant past, reminding us that no matter how different we might seem on the surface, beneath it all, we share a deep, ancient connection. It tells us we're all part of one big, beautiful, ongoing human story that stretches back further than we can imagine. And that's a truly comforting and wondrous thought, isn't it? When rivers spoke old secrets, have you ever stood beside a river, watching the water move, and felt like it knew something, like it was carrying ancient whispers downstream? For many people long ago, rivers weren't just moving water, they were living beings. They were like old, wise souls, flowing through the landscape, gathering ancient memories and secrets. Imagine a world where everything around you felt alive. Trees breathed, winds sang, rivers held thoughts. Many ancient cultures saw things this way, from the mighty Nile, which cradled civilizations, to sacred rivers in distant lands. People believed these waterways remembered everything. They saw every sunrise, every whispered prayer, every battle. A river was a witness, a librarian collecting stories not in books, but in its current and sediment. Think of a favorite worn-out old sweater. You've had it for years. It's seen you through so many moments, happy, sad, quiet, everyday ones. That sweater carries the memory of those experiences. It doesn't speak words, but wearing it connects you to those past times. Rivers are like that, but on a grander scale for the world. They connect mountains to seas, past to present, carrying echoes of what once was. So, when we look at a river today, maybe we can try to see it differently, not just as a natural feature, but as something flowing, watching, and remembering for thousands of years. It reminds us that places themselves have a deep memory, a kind of quiet wisdom, and maybe, just maybe, if we listen closely, the water can still share a tiny piece of those old, forgotten secrets. The boy who carried the sun. Have you ever felt like the weight of the world was on your shoulders, even for a moment? Imagine a myth, not of a mighty god, but of a young boy who literally carried the sun. This isn't a famous story you might know, but it feels so true to how we sometimes feel. It's about a quiet, deep burden. This ancient idea isn't just about someone physically lifting the sun. It's a way for people long ago to talk about huge responsibilities. They understood that sometimes the most important tasks fall to those who seem least likely to handle them. The boy carrying the sun is a powerful image for the weight of doing something essential for everyone, even when it's incredibly hard. Think about it like this. Maybe in a small village, the youngest son was given the job of tending a very special, delicate plant. That plant wasn't just any plant. It provided medicine for the whole community. If he failed, everyone suffered. His task, though small in scale, was as vital as the sun's light. His burden was silent, but immense. Here's the thing about these forgotten stories. They often show us how people in the past tried to make sense of life's pressures. We all carry our own versions of the sun. It could be the pressure of a big test, or the feeling of needing to be strong for a family member. It might be the dream you hold on to that feels too big for you, but you carry it anyway, because it matters. And that's why this myth feels so familiar. It reminds us that everyone, no matter their age, carries something vital. Sometimes it's a hope, sometimes a responsibility, and even when it feels too heavy to bear, just knowing you're carrying your own special light can make it a little less lonely. It's a quiet strength, a gentle reminder of our own silent burdens, and the warmth they still give off. The price of a borrowed life. Have you ever stopped to really think about what it means to borrow something? Not just a book, but something bigger. Maybe an idea, a special skill, or even a moment of time. Many forgotten myths share a quiet truth about this. If you gain something too easily, if you take what isn't truly yours, there's always a hidden cost. Not in these ancient tales. Heroes might get incredible power, but it often came with a heavy burden or a big sacrifice later. Sometimes, a magical item offered a quick way to get what you want, a shortcut. But that wish often twisted, bringing unexpected problems. This wasn't just about magic, it was about balance. The old storytellers believed the universe always seeks equilibrium. If you take from one place, something must be given back somewhere else. It's like a cosmic seesaw, always finding its level again. Think about it in a way that might feel familiar. Imagine a big, challenging project for school. You could spend hours researching, working hard, and creating something truly your own. Or, here's the thing, you might find an old essay online and just change a few words. You borrow someone else's effort. You might get a good grade quickly, but that borrowed success comes at a cost, doesn't it? The price is your own learning, your own genuine growth. It's a bit like playing a video game where you use a cheat code to get super powerful instantly. The game might feel easy, but then it's not fun anymore. You didn't earn that power. The real satisfaction comes from the struggle, from putting in the effort and truly understanding. These myths whisper a timeless truth. They are a gentle warning. True strength, deep wisdom, and lasting happiness aren't things you can borrow. They are things you grow, carefully, patiently, from inside yourself. And every time something seems too good to be true, these old stories quietly remind us to pause. They ask us to look deeper, because the most valuable gifts are often the ones we build, piece by patient piece, with our own hands and hearts. What truly belongs to us is what we've worked for, what we've honestly earned. The whisper of a hidden path. Have you ever heard a story, maybe from a dream or a really old movie, and it felt strangely familiar, like you'd known it your whole life, even if you couldn't remember where? That feeling is kind of what we're exploring with these forgotten myths. Here's the thing. Sometimes people who lived thousands of years ago, in places totally separated by oceans and mountains, came up with stories that were surprisingly alike. They never talked to each other. They didn't have phones or internet. But somehow, their myths about the world, about heroes, or about how things began, held very similar ideas. It's like there was an invisible, hidden path connecting their thoughts, running deep beneath the surface of all human experience. It's like a secret pathway for ideas, echoing through time, connecting human hearts and minds even today. Think of it this way. Imagine everyone living in different houses, but they all see the same moon in the sky, or they all feel the same chill when winter comes. They might tell different tales about the moon or winter, but the basic feeling, the big idea, is the same. That's a bit like these shared myths. Maybe ancient people, looking at the same stars or feeling the same fears, created similar ways to understand their world. Here's an example. Almost every culture has a story about a great flood that reshaped the world. You find it in ancient texts from Mesopotamia, in Native American legends, and in old Asian tales. It's not just about water. It's about the feeling of life being swept away and starting new. It's about facing something huge and uncontrollable. We all, deep down, understand that feeling of smallness against powerful forces. So, when you stumble upon one of these forgotten myths and it stirs something in you, making you feel a connection, it's not just a coincidence. It's a quiet whisper from that hidden path. It's a reminder that even though we're all unique, we share a deep, common thread of understanding, hope, and even fear that has been with humans for a very long time. It can make you feel a little less alone in the world. A gift from the land of shadows. Have you ever thought about what we learn from life's hard parts? Not just big, scary things, but even the quiet shadows of our fears, or parts of ourselves we don't understand. Many ancient myths tell stories of journeys into these lands of shadows. They weren't only about danger. Often, deep truths hid there. For a long time, people saw the unknown, even death, as a shadow world. It felt mysterious, with things kept from plain sight. But here's the thing. These old stories weren't just warnings. They suggested something valuable could be found there. They showed that facing what scares us, or what feels unsure, could give us a special gift. Perhaps wisdom, or new strength. Think about it like this. Say you're trying to learn something new, and it feels really tough. Perhaps practicing a difficult piece of music, or understanding a complex science idea. At first, it feels like a big, dark challenge. You might feel confused, or just want to stop. That moment of struggle is a bit like your own shadowland. But if you keep trying, if you push through that difficult spot, you don't just master the skill. You also learn how strong you are. That confidence, that new way of seeing, that's the gift from facing the hard part. So, these myths gently remind us of something important, even now. Sometimes, the best lessons don't come from life's bright, easy moments. They come from quiet, uncertain times. They come from places where we faced something difficult, or felt lost. And in those moments, if we look closely, we often find hidden strength inside us, deeper understanding, or wisdom we never expected. It's a quiet treasure, brought back from the shadows. The mountain that moved half. You ever looked at something huge, like a mountain, and thought, that will always be there, exactly as it is? It feels so permanent, right? But here's the thing. In ancient stories, mountains sometimes do move. Not just a little bit, but in really big, impossible ways. This isn't just magic. It's a way old stories try to explain how our understanding of the world can completely shift. Imagine living in a time when people believed the earth was flat. The edges of the world felt solid, like a great wall you couldn't pass. That belief was like a huge mountain in their minds. But then, brave explorers and new ideas came along. They showed that the world was round. And just like that, the flat earth mountain moved. The whole world, in their minds, became something totally different. Think about it like this. Maybe you once had a strong opinion about a certain type of food. You just knew you hated broccoli, for example. It was a firm, unchanging truth for you, like a small, green mountain in your mind. But then, maybe you tried it cooked in a new way, or with a different sauce, and suddenly, your mind changed. The broccoli mountain moved. It wasn't about the broccoli itself changing, but about your perception of it. These myths about moving mountains remind us of something really important. They tell us that even the most solid ideas or biggest challenges can change. They might not move with a rumble and a shake, but they can shift in our minds. It makes you wonder, what mountains in our own lives, or in the world, do we believe are unmovable, when really, they might be ready to shift and reveal something new? It's a quiet thought, but a powerful one. The legend of the last seed. What if everything you knew, everything familiar, suddenly disappeared? What one tiny thing would you hold on to, knowing it might be the only piece left? Many old stories, almost like whispers from a long time ago, talk about something called the legend of the last seed. It's a myth, yes, but it's not always about an actual plant seed. Instead, it's about a single, precious fragment that remains after something big changes or even breaks apart. This fragment holds all the hope for what could be next. Think about ancient cultures who survived terrible natural disasters, like droughts that lasted for years or massive floods. They didn't just give up when their world was turned upside down. They remembered the smallest, most vital things. Maybe it was a tiny handful of grain saved in a secret jar, or a single, important song passed down through generations, or a skill for making fire from nothing. This one seed, whether it was a memory, a core piece of knowledge, or a real seed, became the start of everything new. It reminds us that even when life feels completely broken, a core piece of strength or wisdom can still be there. Here's how this might feel in your own life. Imagine you're trying to understand a really confusing subject in school. You might feel totally lost, like there's no way you'll ever get it. But then you remember just one key rule, or one small idea, that the teacher mentioned. That one rule is like your last seed. It's the tiny, essential piece that helps you slowly rebuild your understanding, step by step, until the whole subject begins to make sense. So, these quiet myths gently tell us something really important. Even the smallest beginning has the power for immense change. It's a soft reminder that hope often comes in the smallest packages, waiting for us to notice it, to protect it, and to help it grow into something wonderful, even from what seemed like almost nothing. The keeper of forgotten names. Have you ever had a name on the tip of your tongue? A word you know is there, but it just won't come out. It feels like it's hiding in a quiet corner of your mind. That feeling is a little like the keeper of forgotten names. This isn't a real person. Instead, it's a way to think about myths, stories, and even simple names that have faded from our shared memory over long periods. For thousands of years, people told stories. They named stars, rivers, and spirits. Every culture had its heroes and strange creatures. But time moves, and things change. Villages moved, new beliefs took hold. Slowly, quietly, some names and stories were told less and less, until they were whispered no more. They didn't vanish completely. It's like they drifted away, settling into a vast, silent library of our past. Here's the thing. Even if you can't remember that specific song from a few summers ago, you know it exists. You can almost hear the melody. The same goes for these forgotten myths. Imagine an old photo album where faces are blurry, or names have faded. You know those people were real. They had lives and worries. Their individual stories, their unique names, have become quiet whispers that only a careful listener might catch. So, the keeper of forgotten names is that quiet space where these echoes live. It's a reminder that beneath our busy world, countless stories are waiting, not lost, but simply resting. Maybe they wait for us to stumble upon them, to feel a flicker of recognition, a strange familiarity. Even now, it makes you wonder what quiet truths are still out there, just beyond the edge of what we clearly remember. The dawn of a new tomorrow. Have you ever wondered if an old song can still whisper a new tune? It's a bit like that with forgotten myths. They don't always just vanish into thin air. Sometimes, they transform. They sleep for a while, deep within our collective memory, only to wake up in a different form, a new story, a fresh idea. This is what we mean by the dawn of a new tomorrow. It's about how the past doesn't just end, but gently, quietly, shapes what comes next. Think about it this way. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky. They saw patterns, brave hunters, and shining gods in the stars. These were their myths, their ways of understanding the vast, dark unknown above. They didn't have telescopes or fancy space probes. But their wonder, their questions, and their urge to find meaning in the universe, that never faded. Over time, those early stargazers became astronomers. The myths of gods became the science of gravity and black holes. The stories changed, yes, but the deep human need to explore the cosmos, to map its secrets, that feeling stayed. It simply took on a new shape, a new language. And here's the thing about this transformation. It shows us that progress isn't about throwing everything old away. It's about building on it, evolving, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. That caterpillar doesn't disappear. It just changes form completely to something new and beautiful. Its essence remains. So, when we talk about a new tomorrow, it's not a blank slate. It's a future woven with threads from the past, even the forgotten ones. This idea gives us a quiet kind of hope. It tells us that even if things change and the world feels brand new, there's always a connection to what came before. We carry history, and its soft whispers, into every new day. It means our understanding of the world keeps growing, but some truths, some feelings, are timeless. They just find new ways to be told.